Just a couple of guys, a couple microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmys and the Joes.
Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee. Alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Noodles? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know show. We are ready to go here.
We are.
Unfortunately, we have to apologize for last week. Had some things going on. I was moving. There was a lot to be heard, and we couldn't even deliver last week. So we apologize for that, but we are back on schedule this week. We're going to go over some of the games last week. We're going to do a little bit of review around the NFL. But before we get to that, and also we're going to give you our picks for the upcoming games. But before we get to that, we are going to also talk about our In the Know Coaches That Gotta Go segment coming up. If you're new to the show, though, do us a huge favor. Help us grow our football community here just by simply going over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, while you're there, you might as well just hit the notification bell to let you guys know when we go live. And you can also, of course, follow us on Facebook and anywhere you get your podcasts.
Well said, Joe. Yes, it's
Hey, I
been a
appreciate it.
long while. I was going to maybe go live
I thought I was
going to
be a little rusty, too.
It was still tough, yeah. But
I thought.
we're all right.
So, Jim, how have you been?
Yeah. Good. I think I'm getting sick, though. I don't know. I go scratchy throat. It's
Well,
been going around.
yeah.
Weather's getting crazy. We had some snow up here
That's
in
the
upstate
thing.
New York. So
That's the thing. The change
finally
of
getting it.
temperatures and
Yeah.
everything, like kind of changing really quickly now.
yeah,
so.
it's finally looking like Christmas. But,
Yes.
hey, football season is here. It's amazing. We made
Still
it through
here.
Thanksgiving and all
We're
that stuff. I
still
hope
here.
you guys had a great holiday, by the way. But it's also that time of year to where that, hot seat, talk starts popping up here, Joe.
Yes,
so we
sir.
talk
Yes,
about
sir.
it as, and we like to say it as in the know coaches that gotta
gotta
go.
go.
Possibly, it's not even that we think that they gotta go, but a lot of speculation that things that people think that they may go. And even you guys out there, let us know in the comments. Join in along with this because we're
Yeah.
gonna play a little game along with this
sure.
and see. Discuss. We're gonna bring up a few coaches here that have been rumored out there that could be possibly losing their jobs. Tell us what you guys think out there, if you agree or disagree here. So first off, let's get right to it. Let's get to the
let's
New York
go.
Football Jets and Robert Saleh. Now,
Ooh.
Robert Saleh, losing record here with the Jets since taking over.
My counterpart.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
that-
kind of looks familiar, but.
I can't let that happen.
No,
Rob.
you can't, right?
Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. But,
yeah.
defensive-minded head coach, and, you can't complain about the defense, especially where they are now. So it's almost kind of like, who's to blame, really, for all of it? Again, is it their, Douglas? Is it their GM, or is it going to be Robert Saleh here? Because as far as looking at GM, he's been able to get talent there, especially, like I said, on the defensive side. So
Right.
he's been able to draft talent. They just haven't hit on the quarterback. So basically, even
Well,
the fact
yeah.
that, Zach Wilson was picked so early, who went in on Zach Wilson?
But he was
it
gonna be
all
picked
him,
early
or
in
was
that
it
draft.
going to be Robert Saleh? Like, who wanted him in that position?
My thing, too,
That
though,
swung and
about
missed
the
on that whole
GM, you
thing.
brought up Joe Douglas. There was a lot of chatter, for the last 5 years of him being fired. Like, fans were calling for his head. Like, he can't draft, and then the guys that he drafts, he ends up trading them away anyway. All these first-round picks, he's traded away. You know what I mean? And now, yet again, we're in this kind of realm where Zach Wilson was a first-round pick, and obviously, I don't think they're going to be trading him right now, and I don't think they can trade him unless you're going to get a seventh rounder. But my thing is you continue to fail with first round picks. Now you've had guys on the defensive side that have kind of panned out with Saleh there, working with Joe Douglas and getting some first round picks on the defense lined up, and they seem to be working out well. But Joe Douglas for a long time was going to be possibly fired, and we kind of called for his head too on this show. And then all of a sudden, you hire Robert Saleh, and it seemed that things started to change, where Joe Douglas started to be a little bit smarter with his decision making, a little bit smarter with how he drafts, because when you bring in a new fresh mind like Robert Saleh into the war room there to kind of help add perspective, maybe that's kind of improved his stock or his ability to do his job. So now that, like, the naysayers before, us included, kind of went off of Joe Douglas now, and now we're like looking at now Saleh as possibly being targeted to being moved on from. I think it's kind of a stretch. I mean, Robert Saleh, what did he get brought in for? The same thing Todd Bowles was brought in for, improve the defense. Guess what? Saleh not only improved the defense, but made them one of the best defenses in the NFL. So now it's the offensive side. Where does the blame go? Well, obviously, Jets fans are very upset that Rodgers ended up getting hurt and it was done for the year. So we really don't know what the offense could have possibly looked like with Rodgers there. What we know now is you had a backup quarterback kind of take the reins, do his best. They've won a few games. They lost, more than they wanted to stay in the race. But now it's like people are starting to point fingers all over the place, especially I feel like more on the offensive side. Nathaniel Hackett, he's got some explaining to do too. Not all of his play calls are very good. Some of them are subpar at best, and a lot of them questionable. So he's got to take some of the blame. And then obviously not having your starter really hurts too. So when you compile all of that, I think it's a very hard case to make to just say, well, Saleh's in jeopardy of losing his job.
Yeah, well, for me, though, it kind of even seems like there's an inner turmoil going on between coach and GM. It seems to me like Robert Saleh, he's just the head figure there. He's going to handle the defense and go with the team, but it seems like there's powers that be beyond his control, and that's changing the quarterback position in and out. Like you just even see now that Tim Boyle is released, and then they go and sign
because he's god awful.
But he is. But they keep cycling in different free agents or whatever who's out there. There's got to be somebody. There's got to be somebody we're going to bring in here that could just even do something, and then they just fall back on Zach Wilson again. You know what I mean?
The problem
Zach Wilson, when he was pulled out, after his first season is starting, you had Mike White a few different times, and a few different fill-ins and stuff like that. And you're constantly bringing this guy in and out, in and out, in and out. And if you're not gonna, if you already know, even if you know that he's not the guy right now, why don't you just ride him out? Because even right now, I think he still is your best bet at winning.
Absolutely.
So why bring in these other guys and mess it all up? Why bring in your Trevor Siemian? Why bring in your Tim Boyles and things like that? Now your Brett Rippins.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson is controlling the offense good enough, I guess, for what they have right now. Yes, he turns the ball over, but not like what we already saw, these guys who haven't even seen the field.
And he makes plays.
Yeah, so I don't know why you're just jumbling it up and mixing it up here, and it seems like it's not like Robert Saleh's control, because even when you see him in the press conference, it kind of even seems like he doesn't know. You know what I mean? It's not like
that's not his forte.
It's not, but if he's head coach, shouldn't he be making the decisions on who's going in and out? And the fact that you don't even just bench him because he's playing terribly, you bring in these other two guys who weren't even on the team before, and then you bench him and put him
Trevor Siemian has been on the roster, though.
I'm just saying, the fact that you bring him in, and then you put him back to the third string again. You did it to him last year, same thing.
That was a different scenario.
Same thing though. But if he was just your starter, and you're making a statement by putting him at third string, and now when you're these guys are that terrible, and you bring it, you're like, hey Zach, can you play for us again, man? Come on, your best chance for us to win. If you really thought that, you wouldn't have brought these other guys in. You wouldn't have started them. You wouldn't have put me at third string.
Well, I mean, the thing with Zach Wilson, like a year ago, that was a whole different situation, because that was when, for some things that he said at a press conference, basically throwing the defense under the bus, and that's something that's a no-no in the NFL. He made a stupid mistake. The kid is still young. He's still got to work on himself, and he has. With the tutelage of Aaron Rodgers, he's really kind of worked out well with him, and they have a phenomenal relationship. So I feel like Rodgers is starting to rub off on him now, and he's being careful with what he says. He's not going to make that mistake he made a year ago again. And then this season, for them to – this is the thing, is I feel like Joe Douglas is kind of gambling. He's making – and I understand your point, Jim, about Robert Saleh. He should have a say, and he does. But the offensive side of the ball is not his thing, and he knows that. He sticks with what he knows. He makes the decisions during game time, what he has to do, and he helps with the defense. I don't see Robert Saleh really helping too much on the offensive side of the ball because he knows that's not him, But I think he's a phenomenal leader. We've seen the defense vastly improve with himself, and that's his job. That's been his job, and he's done it very, very well, I feel like. The offensive side, they left that to Nathaniel Hackett. So if Nathaniel Hackett's not able to be creative enough or come up with better play calling throughout the games and every single week, game planning for the next team the right way, that's got to be falling on Hackett now. And that's kind of where I feel with Zach Wilson, he's kind of caught in the middle of all this. He's had to try to, develop much faster under Rodgers than it was initially, expected. You know what I mean? Rodgers has been supposed to be the starter, and Zach Wilson was going to learn from him on a week in, week out. Now that's been thrown out the building here, they are knee-jerk reactions. They're knee-jerk decisions that are happening. And I gotta say that it's probably between Douglas and Nathaniel Hackett that are making these decisions on the offensive side, that are saying, oh, well, and I still think Saleh has a say. It's not like we're diminishing in that. But like you mentioned, in his press conferences about him not being clueless, but kind of tiptoeing around the questions about, well, why is Zach third string now? Or why are you moving on from Zach? And why are you starting Tim Boyle? And why this, why that? Because I think he's involved, but he's not the end-all, be-all decision maker.
Right.
So,
I think that's why it seems like he comes with empty answers
exactly,
in the
that's
press
what I'm
conference
saying.
and contradicts himself.
So when you have Douglas and Nathaniel Hackett talking, and Hackett's like, well, maybe we should try something different, because it's almost like Hackett is trying to push off the pressure off of himself and saying, well, the offense didn't work because Zach Wilson was turning the ball over. So, okay, fine. You move on from Zach Wilson. Your decision is Tim Boyle, a guy that's never started, a guy that is not the guy. He's always been a backup. Mm-hmm. And we saw the evidence of it. He's absolutely god-awful terrible. Mm-hmm. So now you're like, well, that didn't freaking work. What do we do? We can't ride with Boyle again this week. We have to do something. Why not Trevor Siemian? Let's talk about Trevor Siemian. Decent backup, but again, a guy that might win you some games, might not. But what's better than that? Because Zach Wilson, he's younger, he's still developing. You might as well let the kid play. Yes, he's going to screw up. We all know that. But if he plays more and gets more experience, maybe that'll help him develop faster with Rodgers' help. So play the kid. Play the kid the rest of the season, and whatever happens, happens. You have to know that, yeah, you had a legitimate shot early on as an organization to maybe possibly get there. Maybe just kind of squeak in, just kind of slide it right in the wild card, and maybe, Rodgers could have came back.
He starts to come, and then he pulls out.
Then we could see what happens. But that's the thing, is that it's not going to happen. That was a unrealistic expectation. They were hoping and crossing their fingers, but it just didn't happen. So here we are. It is what it is. Most likely, Jets are definitely not going to make the playoffs. And because of that, you might as well just ride out the rest of the games with Zach Wilson and see what the kid can do. Stop yanking stop putting a different quarterback in here. Then next week, we'll go back to Zach. Then, oh, wait, I really want to give Trevor Siemian a chance. Let's get him in the last. No, just ride with Zach
Make
Wilson.
a decision, stick with it. That's what I think. Same thing.
And let's be honest, just like you just mentioned a few moments ago, Zach Wilson does give you the best chance for your offense to run efficiently. We've seen, moments where he makes some really good plays, but then also he's made some really bonehead ones, and you're like, wow, why is this guy still playing? So he does some good things, does some bad things. I feel like he gives you the best chance to win right now. I mean, that's what the best you have. So just roll with it.
All right, we got a bunch of comments in the house. We
got Paul Matty's
in the house from Playa Linda Beach.
That's right.
Shout
Says
out to
greetings. And then Tom Leiter jumps in and says, greetings from Seattle. What's going on, Tom? Paul, what's up? Welcome to the show. Tom also says Zach Wilson learned from Rodgers. Yeah, I mean, he's been learning from Rodgers. And I saw, real quick, I saw Rodgers have an interview on Pat McAfee show, right? And they were asking him about, the whole thing, like the reports that were out there about he kind of was hesitant to come back and start for the Jets and that, but Rodgers was blatantly honest as he is and says all those reports are full of shit. None of them were ever true. So let's debunk that. And you're right. I feel like with Rodgers there, and the fact that Zach Wilson, that's his idol, makes it that much more impactful for him to grow faster as a quarterback. What else? He goes, Tom Letter also said, what you said at that
same time. I think you said that right when he said it. So, yep.
Yep. Tom goes, if you were put third string, it would motivate you to try harder. I saw Holmgren do this to Hasselbeck, and he thrived, I would say, so hard he took us to a Super Bowl the next year. Yes, it could motivate you, and I think for Zach Wilson, I think with the help of Rodgers to kind of help him understand what's happening, it's a business, this, that, the other thing, you got to produce. I think it has motivated Zach Wilson. Now, because of all the media reports, you're never going to know what really happened. Like, did it light a fire in Zach Wilson? Be like, no, I know I'm better than these guys. You guys need to keep me as your quarterback. So let's see what happens this week, because Zach Wilson has been deemed to start this week. Let's see if, he's got to try to limit those really poor mistakes, but let's see what the Jets, offense kind of looks at.
Once you see if some of the heads start to roll, if Nathaniel Hackett does even get, fired, then you know that things are going, gears are turning, and somebody's got to take the blame for some of it. And even some people, again, up here in New York, in our media right now, some of the conversations are, well, it's kind of funny because Jets fans especially, sorry Jets fans, but you're not used to having this type of thing, like having that Aaron Rodgers. You had him for just a blink of an eye. You had so much expectations coming into the season. You were psyched. You were hyped. You had the defense. You got your quarterback now. You're ready to go. You had him for 4 plays, and then the dream's over. And you know that Nathaniel Hackett was brought there to bring Aaron Rodgers. Alan Lazard was brought there to bring Aaron Rodgers. Randall Cobb was brought there to bring Aaron Rodgers. And some of them fear that if that Nathaniel Hackett is fired, what does that do for Aaron Rodgers? Like, he's going to up and leave because of it. You guys forget that
it's terrible.
Nathaniel Hackett had left and went to Denver, with the Broncos. And Aaron Rodgers was still fine in Green Bay. He didn't stomp his feet and say, well, I'm leaving. I'm going back
to Denver
with Nathaniel then.
No,
he didn't. And so I think that was just a little bit to help him there. But one thing we have noticed with this offense is it is bland. When you weren't able to run the ball effectively in that last week with Breece Hall, you had to try and get it in the short passing game with the running back, get him open in some space instead up the middle and things like that. But when you had inept quarterbacks at the position, when there even is a dump off to the running back and he overthrows them, and you saw the frustration by the players, by Garrett Wilson, and you saw it by Breece Hall, they were ready for Zach Wilson to come back. So
it's pretty bad.
So we'll see going further with this. I feel that Robert Saleh shouldn't be either. I mean, it's tough.
No,
I say play it out one more year, I guess, even with Aaron Rodgers.
But one thing I would suggest the Jets do is Nathaniel Hackett. This is his second stint at being an offensive coordinator, and in Denver, maybe he didn't have all the pieces, but it didn't look good there either. Mm-hmm. Now you're here with the Jets. I know you're working with Zach Wilson and not Rodgers. But still, the play calling is still subpar at best. Mm-hmm. And if any head is going to roll, I would think it's going to be Hackett, because we're not seeing any creativity with the offense, especially having a different style of quarterback like Zach Wilson, who has mobility, where you could utilize it, much like the Giants did with Daniel Jones, where they utilize his legs to keep the defense honest and like, oh crap, we really got to watch out for that now. And then he opens up some passing lanes for him and high percentage throws. So let's see if Hackett gets any smarter this week.
All right, here next up we've got Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. Now we're hearing this a lot on the media too as well. It's so funny
It's
how
so hilarious.
how out of love the media has fallen with Bill
It's
Belichick. This picture of
ridiculous.
him is funny too. He looks strung up. He looks like an alcoholic that we picked up. You know, somebody got in a bar fight outside Albany. Here, his hoodie's all ripped up, and he just looks like a homeless guy.
I'm sorry.
But after Robert Kraft just re-upped his contract and everything, you
Yeah,
figured he's good to
come on.
go. And yes, they are. It's funny how they had Matt Patricia running the offense last year, and you're like, they can't get any worse. And then they do, even when you bring Bill O'Brien back. But really, for me, it's just quarterback play. And it's
Yeah,
funny how Mac
for
Jones
sure.
had just gone this south.
Yeah.
So was it the fact that maybe he just isn't understanding the offense or something like that?
I don't think
all of
so.
a sudden, I just don't know what the
No.
difference is between that and Matt Patricia's offense, that there's such a difference that where he's making really flat out bonehead mistakes in crucial times of the game. I mean, Belichick, what do you know about him? He's the defensive minded guy.
Mm-hmm.
Defense, they've given up 26 points in the past 3 weeks.
Yeah.
A lot of defenses out there would love to brag that. So it's not like defense is struggling at all. They've been keeping them in games. The offense just isn't doing it. They're just not putting up points. In fact, the turnovers is what's killing them. Because even the teams that they're playing, they haven't been able to put up a lot of points offensively either on that defense. It's been on turnovers.
Yeah, the offense is really the problem. We all know that. That's why, Mac Jones is definitely in question this year. Probably, most likely they're going to be looking to move on from
But they're
draft to
doing the
quarterback.
quarterback shuffle. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
They're doing the quarterback shuffle. One time it's Mac Jones, now it's Bailey Zappi.
Yeah, they gotta try
and then now
something
they're just
different.
not sure.
I mean, they already know what they have in Mac Jones. So they tried, Bailey Zapp, and he's even worse.
Yeah, just
way
that's
worse.
the thing. You think it's bad, and then,
Way
then you
worse.
see it again. And it's
Uh,
like, oh
so-
my God, it got worse.
It is what it is there in Patriots. And, the offense has been pretty dismal all season long, and we know that. But, as far as the defense goes, like you brought up 26 points on average for the last 3 weeks, that's not good either.
No,
you
that's
typically-
combined.
Oh,
That's
it's
a combined.
combined? Okay,
That's
okay.
combined.
Okay.
Only giving
Okay.
up 30 points
All
or
right.
26 points in the
Okay.
last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
10,
Gotcha.
and 6.
Okay, that's fine then.
No, that's what I'm
That's
saying.
really good.
That's really
But
good.
the problem is the fact that your defense is playing out of their minds then,
Yeah.
and your offense not being able to score points. Because
Yes,
just think
that's what
about
I
that
said,
for a
yeah.
second. Think
By
about
the way,
that for a
Tom
second.
Leiter says Belichick is a system head coach.
Oh, boy, nah, I don't think so. Yeah, if you want to talk defensive system, maybe.
man, yeah.
But for the Patriots going forward, we already know what they're going to be doing. They're going to be looking for a high-end quarterback in the draft. They're already picking in the top 5 right now. Who knows how it ends up, how it shakes out at the end of the year. But that's the thing. They've already made that decision now. Everybody knows it. It's not a secret. And they're thinking by getting that new quarterback, most likely that might play out well in their hands. We've heard maybe Drake May is who they're targeting, so which would make a lot of sense. But Bill Belichick and his tenure, I think it's rock solid. I dispute all these reports out there. The guy literally just signed an extension, guys. If he just signed an extension, I don't care what kind of hot take article you put out there to discredit it and say, well, he still could be in jeopardy of losing his job, even though he has an extension. How do you figure? Robert Kraft and everyone kind of has alluded to him having, some disagreements with Belichick and what have you, which every owner and coach sometimes have. So especially your GM as well. But he just agreed to sign him to an extension. If he's made that decision as an owner, he's pretty comfortable with keeping him there.
Yeah, and it's funny here. So, I don't see him leaving. I understand it, though, why what people were saying, how they're just off to a terrible start. And that's, last year they were, on the bridge of being a playoff team, but just couldn't make it. And now they've gotten worse. But it's funny, too, even if people said that, Tom Brady was the answer and just now Belichick, is nothing now. We all knew, this is what's going on now. The Patriot way
right.
wasn't the Patriot way. It was the Tom Brady way. And the one factor, like we just brought up, the difference between that team and now and things like that is you had a quarterback that made smart decisions, that knew the playbook well, and was a leader. And I just don't think they have that right now. Because the defense was always there, too.
Here's
Look
the
at
thing.
Tom Brady's teams that he won the Super Bowl with. Their defense was good.
Yeah, the defense was good, but Tom Brady was the whole offense.
Right.
So, but like, here's the
But
thing:
it's not
is
like
with
they were winners because of Tom Brady. Like
their offense
just
was because
solely-
of Tom
yes,
Brady.
Exactly.
Their
yes.
offense was explosive because of Tom Brady.
Yes.
Because
I get that.
just besides the fact that with McDaniels there, everybody considered him a genius of an offensive guru and all that, it really wasn't true. Now we know that for a fact that it was Tom Brady. Tom Brady was the reason that offense ran so well because he would change probably half the plays that Josh called, and you would see at times Tom Brady screaming and yelling at Josh because how could you call that play? Or Josh would get on him, and then Tom Brady would lose it because he's like, what the hell are you talking about? You didn't see the cover 3 defense there? That's why I changed it to this. That's why we scored, asshole. You know what I mean? So now that we know that, things are different in New England for sure. You have a different type of quarterback. You don't have I'm not going to say that he's not smart. Mac Jones is a very smart quarterback, but I don't feel like they give him full control. Like with Brady early on, it was a shaky start for his career, but then as he gained more confidence in the offense and understood it better, he was given more control over it, audibling and everything. And I don't see that with Mac Jones. I see him audibling in a sense like maybe changing the direction of a run or maybe changing a route, but I don't see him basically changing the whole play. So I feel like that limits him as a quarterback too. So whether they decide to take the training wheels off and let him have a little bit more control to change it to a play if he sees fit, that's a whole other deal. So for New England right now, they're going to go in the quarterback direction. Maybe that pans out for them well. Maybe it doesn't.
Tom
but
Leiter
time will
says,
tell.
how long will an NFL fan base used to winning put up with losing? NFL
Not very long.
Not for long.
That's
if you
right.
can't blame the quarterback, you blame the coach.
And that's
the
true.
thing. That's the thing is how long is the leash? If they lose again next season or whatnot, how far does it go?
I mean, Patriots fans were complaining this year about Belichick and calling
they're
for his
quick.
head.
Yeah, that's how quick.
But it's like, but here's the thing: is you do realize like
because they love
when we looked at the history of Belichick as a GM from the year 2000 and onward drafting, he has like 3 or 4 drafts where he's like, well, I'll put that in my cap and say F you to everybody because I drafted that team.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Took a look at that.
So, like, he drafted Tom Brady. He listen, it was a long shot, but it panned out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, until he finds another quarterback that can be able to control an offense, take over, and be able to have full control of the offense, I don't think you're going to see the same Patriots team until that happens. So, maybe this draft they'll find that answer. But the defense, you never have to worry about. That's why I think Belichick isn't going anywhere along with the extension he got.
All right, we got Mike Tackett in the house tonight.
Mikey Mike, what's going on? He said, in honor of No Nut November finally over, happy hump day, guys. Happy to see the Packers in the playoff contention. I think J-Love is starting to really shine at the right time. Also, fuck Goodell. Clown. I like the ending. That was pretty
I
good.
like that.
But yeah, you're right, Mike. And that's the thing is your Packers there. Jordan Love.
That was a good surprise.
It was
for everything, right? I
listen.
think the people need to still chill the hell out. How many
Yeah.
times every game for them when
He
they
made-
play do they compare him to Brett
Oh,
Favre and
God.
Aaron Rodgers
Come
and
on.
everything? It's
Come
like,
on.
come on, dude.
You can't.
They
it's
do
Jordan
this
Love,
with
different
everybody.
quarterback.
Like
Just
that,
a different
that
quarterback.
shows a flash of things. It's hilarious, man.
But and the one big thing is that they beat the Chiefs, right? Like they beat one of these big time teams, these playoff caliber
Yeah,
teams.
I guess.
And that's where the hype goes. It's like, oh well, you saw what he did against the Chiefs, and they're really storming back. Maybe he is the answer now. So it's like now they're all on this bandwagon just because he had a good game and beat the Chiefs. Let's see what happens next week. Now it's about consistency as a quarterback. Can he do the same thing and have the same type of game next week?
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing with that game is I was surprised at Chris Jones not being able to get into the backfield as much. They really held him in check. But all right, here we go. Next up, one of the other coaches here as we go through our in the know coaches that got to go. It's got to be Brandon Staley now too. We've been talking about this for a couple seasons now, and now this has got to be the season, especially here with what's been going down here with this offense and team altogether. Again, their defense has been very poor. Held New England to a shutout last game here, but still offensively 6 points. You know what I mean? Like, what are you guys doing here again? And this team who has had that, label of, hey, they're up and coming, they're contenders, they've got some talent, and bleh, I mean, they don't really do nothing, and especially this
very
season,
disappointing, very
flat, very off, and I don't know if it's Kellen Moore to blame for that or not, or is it just finally again Brandon Staley,
No, I mean, here's the thing that's kind of clipped him in the heels too, is his decision making as a head coach, going for it on fourth down more than any other coach in the league, and it hasn't really panned out because it's the game situations that he decides to do it too. Like, you know what I mean? He lost the ability to make the playoffs when they played the Raiders, a couple years ago, where, hey. If they didn't go for it at their own 20 on fourth down, and then they turned the ball over and gave it to the Raiders, maybe they could have went to the playoffs. That whole game could have changed. But it's a game with him. It's a game about field position, and so far he's losing that game mightily. And with those decisions that just kind of keep rearing their heads every single week, and it's like it makes Charger fans out there question, but like, what are you doing? Like, are you trying to sabotage our team? Like, I get it. I'm all for being aggressive and going for it on fourth down, given the right spot on the field. But to do it on your own side of the field, and then when you don't get it, you look like a heel. You look like an ass. So that's what he's been doing. And it begs the question, like, just like you said, is it Kellen Moore? No, I don't think it was. I don't even think it was their past offensive coordinator. Their offense was perfectly fine. But it's always been Staley's decision-making as a head coach. And that right there, that's a problem. That's a major problem for a head coach. If you can't make good decisions, what's the point of having you in that seat?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think this has been a long time coming and finally we've got to this point. I think They have been a team that have had opportunities to do better, and they haven't. And I think do it now while you have Justin Herbert there, still young and everything, and with that quarterback that you have in house.
Right.
You can't keep settling for what they are right now. Tom Leiter says never heard of her. I think when he's talking about Goodell,
yeah.
Yeah.
But no,
Well,
you're right, Jim. And that's the thing with this Chargers team is they are loaded with talent.
Yeah.
Loaded.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's no reason why they should be this
it's
bad.
It's insane to me. In last year and this year, we kind of hyped this team up a little bit before the season started. We're like, man, they got everybody healthy. They got a pretty good offensive line. They got a star-studded kind of defense. They should look to really be one of those top 10s in the overall team, and we just don't see it. And it's like, well, they haven't. You can't make the excuse that they're all injured. Because that used to be the whole thing with them, is they're always injured. No, not anymore. Yeah, they still sustain injuries from time to time, but they should be able to overcome those minor injuries, and they're not. They're not doing that. They're not winning games that they should be winning, and even with games that they have in their hands, they kind of let slip away because of some of the decision making.
Right. All right, my next head coach that I think has got to go, Ron Rivera. I think the writing's on the wall. We've all seen it. Jack Del Rio gets fired like it was the defense's fault for losing the last couple of weeks, especially after let's take his two top pass rushers away. And then expected to do. You know what I mean? But that's what's kind of funny, though. No, it's like you take those guys away, and then you're blaming defense still.
But that was
having a person to be on the chopping block.
But that wasn't even Ron Rivera.
I know.
That was from up top.
Well, I know.
The new owner.
I know. So this is, like we said, when things like that start happening, then the wheels are turning. They just start, going for somebody lower until it finally gets to the top. And this is, I think we've seen again I think it started with the hiring of Eric Bieniemy here. They want to try and see if he could groom their quarterback, Sam Howell, and do something with that. Or eventually now go and be, progressive and be one of those franchises again that hires, a minority head coach here moving forward, and a guy that has been interviewed many times and is deserving of a head coaching job here. So I think this was the perfect opportunity to bring him in. Ron Rivera, again, fail as a head coach again with this team, and then now you can make the switch. New ownership, too, as well. It just seemed like too much was lining in the place here with the stars for it to go forward here.
So with the new ownership, you've already seen them kind of dictate what they want to do when they want to do it, by, like you said, moving on from their pass rushers, and then to all of a sudden fire the D coordinator, which is an interesting decision because they could have very well have fired Ron Rivera right there, because Ron Rivera is more of a defensive guy. He's helped build that defense even before Jack Del Rio got there. So what's interesting about it all is the fact that they didn't fire Ron Rivera, but they fired the D coordinator, which isn't the problem. And then they also move on from two of their premier defensive players. So I'm kind of confused with the direction they're headed in, because if there was any point in time to fire Ron Rivera, it would have been at that time. Instead of firing Jack Del Rio, make him the interim coach, fire Ron Rivera, and you can restart in the offseason and maybe go for either a new coaching search, or maybe if they feel comfortable with Jack Del Rio as head HC, There's a lot of things they could have done differently, which would have made a lot of sense. But the fact that what they did, and now if they were to, in the offseason, also fire Ron Rivera, it to me, it just doesn't make any football sense on how they're going about it. So if Ron Rivera, maybe they have confidence in Ron Rivera because it's a new ownership group, it's a new clean slate type of thing. Let's see what they do in the offseason. But it also could be just a weird way of taking over a team and then waiting to the offseason to fire Ron Rivera when he's been there for quite some time. And I don't think Ron Rivera, I know he's a head coach, he's not the GM, but it seems like everywhere he's been, like you look at his tenure in Carolina real quick.
Yep.
When he found his quarterback, in Cam, they kind of made it work, and it actually helped them to build around Cam and to make that team a pretty good team early on. But Ron Rivera's never been with a franchise and start from scratch and build that whole team up to be a tough team, a competitive team. So I feel like when he went to Washington, it was a whole new thing for him, and I don't feel like he knows how to build a team from scratch. Like, yes, he found Cam in Carolina. Yes, they drafted DJ Moore. Like, those were cornerstone pieces that worked out, and they kind of rode their coattails to winning games. But that team was so young, it was like he didn't have to do a whole lot. Just had to find a couple pieces, and it ended up working out. With Washington, there was nothing there. Nothing. And he's putting all his eggs in the basket on Sam Howell, hoping he can pan out as an offensive, prospect. But you're still not there as a team, and it's been years.
Yeah.
So
bringing in familiar faces too.
I think,
which
and
made sense for him in there too.
I think it might be time that it might be time to let's just wipe everything clean, like start over fresh, bring in a new modernized type of coach that isn't deserving of it. Like you mentioned, Eric Bieniemy, he's an offensive coordinator. And he's tried to prove himself this year by going to Washington to say, hey, it wasn't Andy Reid. I know how to call plays. And he does. I feel like he's doing a really good job in that department.
Look at my African-American over here. Look at him.
Enemy, it's going to be interesting because Washington's not going to be the only team interested in him.
Yeah.
Because there's already been rumors about him, with a couple other teams this upcoming offseason to get interviews.
Yeah.
So it might end up being what he thinks the best situation is at that time and the pay. Because he's looking for a raise just like anybody else would. So that's what's going to make this whole thing interesting.
Yeah, the thing is with Rivera too, it's almost like the same way Sal is right now, defensive coach. never found the quarterback. How many times did they try and search for one, in the yellow pages? You know what I mean? They started bringing in Carson Wentz, Ryan Fitzpatrick, is Alex Smith, bang, 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 and just never got it done. And when they were kind of there for a contender, they got a pretty solid team. If you look at their team, especially a lot of offensive weapons, the way, Brian Robinson, the way it looks now, Terry McLaurin there.
Jahan Dotson.
Yeah. They
Terry
look
McLaurin.
really good. Like they have a team,
Curtis
if
Samuel.
you get the right piece. But they just haven't. And so now, after a couple of years of failure here, and like I said, new ownership, again, it just seems like now they're ready to turn the page. Let's start fresh.
My thing, too, is the GM. No one's been bringing up the GM. The GM's done a terrible job building this team as well. Like, when you neglect certain areas, and it, just like the Giants, like they've neglected offensive line, which is pretty big deal now. So,
all right,
I don't know.
got
Maybe
Kyle,
we'll figure it out.
Kyle Plunkett's in the house with us tonight.
Yeah, Kyle said they should be a great team, but they're not playing the way a team should. Well, yes, you're right about that. They need to unite and know one another's qualities and utilize them. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's how every team should work. That's
how every
teamwork.
team
It makes
should
the
work.
dream work, Kyle.
But unfortunately, it doesn't work out when you don't have good leadership and good coaching and a good staff put in place. So, that's the thing, and about every team that we're talking about right now with their coaches, that are, possibly on their way out this offseason.
All right, next up, we've got Kyle says something here, but here we got Dennis Allen that's also going to be on the hot seat. We think here, one of those coaches that's got to go. Kyle says, I suppose that probably goes for a lot of teams as well.
Goes to every
there you
team.
go. He goes, I responded the same. Nice, absolutely. So, so there you go. But, Dennis Allen for the Saints again, taking over for Sean Payton, hasn't really, looked stellar, even with a lot of the same weapons and things like that. Yes, he's dealt with a little bit of not having Alvin Kamara there, Michael Thomas was injured for a while. Now he's back this season. You bring in Derek Carr. You think it's going to get working here. You even bring in John Gruden to help out with Derek Carr, get it going, a new, fresh look for Derek Carr. And they just don't seem like they're melding here. And again, just doesn't seem like it's a fit. They just offensively can't really get on the same page, and they're really kind of just not, with a division here that's really there for the taking. It's not like even the Atlanta Falcons, the way they're playing.
There.
I mean, it's literally, still there.
It's the division no one wants.
Just the way they're playing right now, it's just not very good. And is it on him now at this point, the head coach? Because again, a lot of people are have their opinions about Derek Carr. They don't think he's an elite quarterback. They don't think he's this and that, or even average to below average. And so then the fact that you're taking him out and you're putting in, Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, stuff like that. So he's scrambling again now. He's scrambling around to try and figure out something here offensively to get this team going, but they just look flat this season.
No, I mean, it's not Derek Carr's fault. Despite what everybody says, I can show you footage and game film. There was these so-called Saints experts that I was watching, and they were trying to break down a play and say, oh, well, Derek Carr should have thrown it to Michael Thomas way over here on the sideline because he was wide open.
It's also said about frustration here with Derek Carr.
Wide open, but he threw it to a tight end in the post who was open but dropped the ball.
Yeah.
But they're saying, they should have thrown it to Thomas because he was more wide open. No, it doesn't matter. The guy should have caught the ball and it would have been a first down. Like, little stupid things like that is kind of what the Saints, for what they are for their offense, it's not Derek Carr. You guys have a shitty offensive line. There's no protection. There's no blocking for Alvin Kamara to even run. So how are you pointing that? I understand quarterbacks because they're the leaders of the offense and they kind of get they get almost all the blame, if not all. But when you got to look at that team overall, what it is, like the terrible offensive line play, the receivers, is as much as we've, applaud Chris Olave and applaud Michael Thomas coming back and saying, wow, the offense should be explosive, but it's not. Rashid Shaheed, like his emergence early in the year, we're like, wow, this team could look really good. And it falls flat on their face. One, lack of protection. Two, the receivers don't run their full routes. They drop the football on top of that. And then Pete Carmichael, the offensive coordinator, is taking a lot of heat now, but
Yeah.
he should have been all season long.
Yeah.
That guy's been calling some pretty bad plays. When you have Derek Carr driving you between the 20s, and all of a sudden you get in the red zone, you're like, oh, Carr, come out. We're putting in Taysom Hill. Everybody knows what he's doing. He's running the ball 9 times out of 10. It's not cute. It's not deceptive anymore. Like when Sean Payton did it, it was different because he wouldn't just line him at a quarterback and run the ball. He'd put him at tight end. He'd mix some things out, have him in the backfield. So my thing with this team right now is they don't know what they are. They have the pieces to be a very explosive offense, but like you said, nothing is working. So you can't pinpoint it on Carr. You can't pinpoint it, on just one person. It's the whole offense. Now, it's under Dennis Allen's, under him, and he's supposed to make these calls and stuff. He could be going to Pete Carmichael. I've even seen it on the sidelines at times where he's yelling at Carmichael about something on the field that happened. Like, why'd you call that play? Or why are we running? Why aren't we throwing more? Or, whatever the case may be. But there's a little dissension there. So I feel like Pete Carmichael, along with everybody else not playing up to par, is the real reason why this team is struggling so much. And then I want to just mention real quick, the defense. The defense was stellar in the beginning of the year. Now, they aren't looking so hot. Yes, they're missing Marshawn Lattimore. I understand that. But what has changed? Has the play calling changed? Are they playing too passive? Like, there's a lot of question marks with this team overall, and I feel like that doesn't bode well for Dennis Allen. And until, hopefully, with the last few games that are left in this season, maybe, I'll say this. If he doesn't get the ship straightened out and win this division, because they're more than equipped to win it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they don't win the division, Dennis Allen very likely could be out.
Yeah, I think so. Because, again, this team, even though they haven't won a lot of Super Bowls, they have a winning tradition. And, going from a Drew Brees and your Sean Paytons and now to this, it's going to be a little shocking for them, especially with the team that they have right now. Again, they have a team that's built to win. And just they're not.
I mean,
so
for God's sake, just win the division.
But yeah, I think it is scary though, the fact that Carmichael, you talk about Matt Canada there with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but Carmichael should have been one of those guys that possibly got let go
for
too,
sure.
Around,
and maybe that might be another indicator. Like, what if Dennis Allen is holding on to Carmichael, and maybe the brass up top is like, hey, what's the deal with this guy? Like, our offense is struggling. He's the guy. You put him, you put him in charge of the offense, and we're not doing anything. We're terrible, actually. So fix it.
Retard alert.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so yeah, we're going through and looking at coaches that have been rumors out there that maybe they're going to be on the hot seat, that they got to go. Right when we get back to those, we're going to get back to those in just a second, but I'm just going to let you guys know, again, if you guys haven't noticed down here, we have some more sponsors here with us here. Not only Raise Energy, but now we have Long Shot Athletics here. So if you guys check it out, check out the website. There it is, longshotathletics.com. When you go to order or purchase some apparel there, we love this apparel, by the way. Hit the promo code, type in know-it-all at your purchase. You'll save yourself 20% there at the checkout. So check out their apparel. This is like a thing that's for the underdog type of anybody. Also people that are trying to better themselves through fitness as well and things like that.
Just like our show.
That's what we try to do.
We are the
physically,
underdogs.
and we are the underdogs as well, too. It's a positive energy type of thing. So we like to be sponsored with these guys. I have a shirt here, so check it out. This is great stuff. 100% cotton here. There's the underdog right there. So join along with us, get your apparel, and save yourself some cash by putting our promo code in, and that's know-it-all at the checkout. Yeah, let's get back to it. Joe, one of the things that we were talking about here that potentially could be one of these hot seat type of guys and a coach that has to go, Kevin Stefanski. So now he's on his 4th year here as head coach with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
And he took over Kitchens, Freddie Kitchens. You know, when Baker Mayfield was there, he didn't like, you know, what was it? You know, Hugh Jackson, right? And then kicked him out, and then there we go. Freddie Kitchens was a guy,
right?
And Freddie Kitchens was terrible. It's like either him or Hackett have to be the worst in all time.
You know what was interesting about that is Freddie Kitchens was actually like pretty good offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Once he got the head coaching title, he had a very difficult time of being the head coach and the offensive coordinator. It was too much for him. So, I mean, unfortunately for him, it ended his career there. But they should have just kept him as the OC.
Yeah, and if you look at Stefanski here, he brought a new, different type of offense here for them. You know, really balanced. And you got, even despite all those weapons that they had, even at one time here with Odell and stuff. I mean, you saw, you know, that there's weapons to throw to, but then also having the running game going. You know, when they had, you know, Kareem Hunt and stuff, and Nick Chubb healthy, you know, and poor Nick Chubb now. So, I mean, is that even something to fall on here? Say, well, it's not exactly his fault, so he shouldn't technically be on the hot seat, but since that first season, joining them when you had Baker Mayfield and those weapons, going 11-5, make it to the division championship and losing that. You've been 8 and 7 or 8-8, 5 and 9.
It's declined.
It's declined.
Yeah.
Losing seasons
every year,
every season, and even this one right now is a tough one. Season right now. Right now they're currently, I think, 7-5, but that defense is doing it all, you know, basically at this point, and they're struggling with having that quarterback. You know,
I gotta say,
Watson can't stay healthy, and he doesn't look even great right now. But now you're looking at Joe Flacco as your quarterback.
I gotta say though, if Stefanski gets fired, if someone needs a D coordinator, the Cleveland Browns D coordinator is the guy to go with. You know what I mean? He's turned that team into the best, you know, or at least the top 3 defense in the league. Jim Schwartz is an aggressive play caller, and it shows. Like, he single-handedly with his defense has kept them in all these games, despite not having Watson at their at their will. They've managed to rotate different quarterbacks in, a rookie, you know, PJ Walker, and they still managed to not only just stay in games but also come away with a couple wins. So with Stefanski, it's interesting, right? If you're comparing offense and defense, Stefanski was brought in to be the offensive guy. He understands offense. He was supposed to improve the offense. And they make that big trade for Watson. We really haven't seen enough of Watson in this offense to kind of say, oh, well, Stefanski deserves another year. Do you give him another flyer year because Watson hasn't been available for too long to see if it works out next year? I think it's a legitimate question for Stefanski to be on the hot seat, and there has to be some discussion about it because and I understand they don't have Nick Chubb too, I get it, but they have capable backs, they have a good offensive line, they have weapons to throw to. The quarterback is really the thing that's inconsistent, but play calling hasn't been the greatest either, and that's on him. He's the one calling the plays, so. If your offense is struggling, and I get it, minus Chubb and Watson, but if your offense is still struggling, teams have managed to find ways to get points. We look at the emergence of Browning with the Bengals, and how great of a game that kid played against the Jaguars, who you know they wanted to win and secure that number 1 seed. But it's only a second game, and he's doing what he's doing. Where with Cleveland, it's like, you should be something comparable enough to put points on the board to help your defense out, and they haven't been able to do that. So because of the continuing struggle on offense, that's where the heat falls on Stefanski. You can't blame defense at all, but you sure could point the finger at Stefanski right now and say, should we even stick around with him?
Right. Even because, again, you look at him offensively, even with Nick Chubb being out, and you look and say they've got enough pieces to score points. I mean, they should be able to, too. And Joe Flacco, and no matter what people even think of him, too, he's still been able to win a Super Bowl.
He got his first start, this past week. So
So I mean,
he looked all right.
Tough. So, but I think he's got to be considered. I think at this point, at least somebody to take a look at him, say. Maybe I never thought of that, but, that could be a thing. Who knows?
True.
All right, next up, we've got Arthur Smith here for the Atlanta Falcons. We just talked about the Falcons and the fact that they're leading the division, but my gosh, what a putrid game that Jets game, Joe, was. It was frustrating to watch. And
it was terrible.
And then the crazy stat that the Jets have scored more There are more safeties in the first quarter than touchdowns this season. I mean, that's insane. What a stat. And
so
talk
bad.
about defense doing all of it for you. I mean, you haven't scored a touchdown offensively in the first quarter, this whole season just about.
No,
That is
it's so bad.
terrible. And we had our talk with the Jets when we talked about Robert Saleh and all that stuff and the mess that's going on with there. But Arthur Smith, not so good either. He started off, with his tenure with the Falcons and saying, hey, all right, look at them, what they're doing, with Cordarrelle Patterson and running the ball and getting kind of tricky here, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You had your Marcus Mariota, your guy that you knew back with Tennessee, your kind of run first style a little bit here, but, and then you could dish it to your tight end here. You got Pitts and things. But this season really taking a step back after, we thought offensively they were maybe going to move forward here, after what they had
take
last
another
year.
step.
And then adding that the players they did on defense, we're like, okay, especially with Jesse Bates here, the third here
secondary
on
much
defense.
improved.
And they, together they just haven't done it, and then he's getting frustrated on the sidelines, yelling and acting almost like he's the victim in all these games. And it just kind of like, I just don't know. I just don't think he's the guy here. And again, for a division here to where you finally got the Saints where you want them, they're kind of struggling offensively. The Panthers are just putrid, and they fired their head coach already, and Frank Reich. It's your division. And then the Bucs with Todd Bowles, and we'll get to him in a second.
Mm-hmm.
But that, the Bucs who were the cream of the crop, and then Tom Brady leaves, and now the whole thing's a ghost town.
I mean, this is kind of hilarious because it's like, I'm smiling ear to ear about Atlanta because do I think Arthur Smith deserves to be fired? Yes. And not because the offense has been touch and go,
Yeah.
That's what his offensive system should be called, because it hasn't been consistent at all.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Because you're starting a quarterback in Desmond Ridder who showed you in the first 4 weeks of the season what you have in him. He's been in your system. He's learned the playbook. He shouldn't have any, issues with the offense and know where to go with the football and be able to read defenses and, and get the ball to the players. And so far this season, this whole entire season, because you stayed with him way too long, it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And the bad quarterback play that was there, and he's still sticking behind him. So that right there tells me everything you need to know about Arthur Smith, is that to a fault, he's sticking with his decision with Desmond Ridder when we've seen evidence every single week that he is not capable of being a starter in this league. But yet here he still is. Like they kind of went away from him and tried to Taylor Heineke before he ended up getting injured. Taylor Heineke, yes, he's not starter worthy for Atlanta, but he gave you experience. He made some plays happen with his legs, with his arm, and it started to give them a spark on offense. And I thought if he was out there longer, who knows, maybe Atlanta could be even better now, but unfortunately got injured, and here we are back with Ridder. And all the confidence in the world, Arthur Smith says at every press conference, we love Ridder. We're sticking with him. We're comfortable with having him as our quarterback. Well, if you keep saying that,
horse shit!
you might as well say, I quit. I should step down from being a head coach. You need to get fired because this is such asinine decision-making as a head coach. You control the offense. You control who's out there in terms of personnel, when they are out there, and you still are sticking behind Ridder and saying that he is still your guy. Well, my guy, it's time to go. Bye-bye. See you later, Arthur.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Wow, all right. Then you just
'Cause I'll tell ya.
you're right though, because you
Look at
got me
look at
thinking
the
too.
weapons
And
that you got.
And do we look back at this though and say when they were in this draft though and they draft Bijan Robinson?
Yes.
Was that the right idea though? Because
Yes.
again, you've had quarterbacks there that they
Yeah.
could have grabbed in this one.
No,
if they
you
wanted to.
can't pass up a guy like Robinson. Like, he is such a difference maker. It was worth the pick. It was, the value was there. Like, I think it was the right pick. But you look at all the personnel that they have. Like, their offensive line is actually a pretty good offensive line when healthy, I'll say. Drake London going down with an injury didn't help. But when Drake London was out there, you had Kyle Pitts out there, you had B.J. Robinson. He was getting creative sometimes with Tyler Algier and B.J. out there at the same time, things like that, which was cool. But then it's like the only problem with the offense is your quarterback, and you're still – I don't know if it's just him saying it because he's out in the press conference and he wants to show that I have confidence in you, blah, 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 because you're young, this, that, and the other thing. But, or does he really believe that? Because if he really believes it, it's time to go. Like, you can't stall this anymore. Arthur Smith, if he really likes Ritter that much, maybe you both can go to a different team.
Absolutely. All right, now sticking with that division, we're going to get right to it here. We're going to talk about Todd Bowles here. And the thing is with this guy, and I think when you look at him, you got to bring up even past experience. You know, when you talk about him when he was coaching the Jets.
Oh, I know who this is.
Just, staring on the sidelines. And then when you see it when he's coaching the games, he's just quiet,
he's a quiet
watching.
Guy. He's a quiet guy.
I don't even think he wears a headset. He's just,
sometimes I kind of wonder about him. We're talking about Todd Bowles, but I wonder sometimes when he's in games, like sometimes I kind of make jokes about Pete Carroll, right?
Yeah.
Because he's always kind of got these different faces and he's animated and he's like,
he spits his gum out, smacks it, and hits into another player, then puts another piece in, and he'll spit it at them again. It's like, dude,
he's just he has
coach just hit me with a piece of gum, but it was in his mouth. What the hell?
Yeah, sometimes he looks lost. He's staring up at the screen. He's like, what happened? Wait, what down is it? What's going on? But when you look at Todd Bowles, there's no animation. He's like
it's
poker
that same
face.
Confused look.
He's got a poker face, and I never see him really communicating with anybody. It's like he talks once in a while, but he's usually stone face, and just you kind of wonder is he the head coach?
What's he doing?
What does he do? Does he say I'll go for a field goal and not go for a field goal, and that's it? Is he limited? Because it looks like it.
Yeah.
And I don't think players really respond to a guy like that because he might be a phenomenal guy behind closed doors and everything, but where's the spark?
Good though.
Where's players like to see a little emotion from time to time.
Yep.
So he doesn't have it. And we've seen this, just like you mentioned, back with the Jets. No emotion, just very extremely quiet. Doesn't really raise his voice that much, and it makes you wonder: does he have passion? Does he care? Does he want to do well? It's very confusing to read him.
Right.
But when you've failed it with the Jets, you get a second stint now with Tampa Bay, and what's the one thing you're missing? There's no Brady. You have a good team overall. You had a decent defense put together. You have an offense pretty well put together with
personnel
weapons.
still there.
The center came back. The center came back healthy. Unfortunately, got injured again.
Yeah.
But you're missing quarterback. Why didn't you go and try to call different teams? Who's available for trade? What are we looking like in the draft? You could have drafted and signed a veteran quarterback, and who knows? Maybe that could have turned the team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers around enough with Brady exiting to where they could be in contention for winning this division.
Yeah, but it's further than that too, because even without Brady, and I don't know if it's even a Baker Mayfield thing or not, but some of these guys look lost. Even look at Mike Evans. Has he looked more lost this season than any other season? Just not engaged in more drops this season, and just I don't know. They haven't been on the same page. You know, it's just kind of
honestly,
funny. Just the offense just not rolling as well.
I would just say no, it's concentration thing for him. I don't know if it's because of their stature as a team right now. If he's just kind of going through the motions type of thing, and just sometimes he'll drop the ball, and it's very uncharacteristic for him. Because usually if he's open, he's catching the ball all the time.
Yeah.
And you even hear it from the football announcers. They're like, Mike Evans with a touch. Oh, that's incomplete.
Secure.
You know what I mean?
It'd even be a wide open.
You never would hear that. You always, it's automatic touchdown. But yeah, I would say there's some things that are happening in the locker room that maybe just things aren't working out, and because of where they're at now in this currently now in the season, some guys might have checked out.
Yeah.
You know, some
That's what I
guys
just think,
might be
defensively
looking.
they're not very good either.
Because Mike Evans could be looking to join another team after this year.
Yeah.
So he's not locked down to that team.
Nope.
No, Chris Godwin is, but
Yep.
he's not. So
Nope.
maybe he's going to look to move on because he's like, hey, we don't even really have a quarter. Like, not to say Baker Mayfield's not comparable. He is, but also he's made his fair share of mistakes as well throughout the year. So maybe they should have made a
well, and the fact even too that what you have some decent weapons.
Right.
You had decent people on defense.
you have enough to win.
You relied on Kyle Trask and who was on the team still.
Yeah.
And then you said, well, Baker Mayfield's going to be available. That's going to be our guy. And like you said, instead of going for something else, see what else might even be out there. So this was your options: either Baker Mayfield,
which I'm fine with going and getting.
Trask.
I'm finding at the time he was like one of those quarterbacks out there in the free agent market where they're like, well, he's younger, whatever. Let's go with him. Not necessarily let's go with him and he's automatically going to be the starter, but they should have went beyond just signing him. I'm okay with signing Baker Mayfield, but they should have also went in the draft and drafted a quarterback on top of it all. And then you have a three-headed competition. Whoever plays better is going to win the job, and let's see what happens. Like that to me would have showed some kind of effort into replacing, that quarterback position. But whatever, it looks like they're going to be looking towards this offseason for that.
Mm-hmm. All right, we've got two more coaches here, and then we're going to get to our picks, so that's going to be a lot of fun here. All right, next, Mike Tomlin, I think, has got to be on this list too.
Yes.
Yes. And it's tough, again, because right now still I think they have a winning record still, but
just real quick, just to be fair, I want to make it clear that I think Todd Bowles should be fired.
oh, yeah, that's right. If we didn't make any of those clear. I mean,
we
some of
gotta-
them, I guess we haven't
we
really
ha-
said any of that,
I
but
mean,
we kind of complained
I've been
about
trying
all
to
of them,
say
I
it.
think, though.
Yeah.
So
Just
Todd
a quick
Bowles, I
answer.
mean, we pretty much, I think, from the get-go.
We've
had
made
said
that
we didn't
decision
agree with that
before
one.
this year.
Yeah. I mean, when you're handed the keys to the Ferrari and you're.
My thing is, okay, Jim, my thing is like if you're an organization starting out or not even starting out, you're looking for a new coach. Why do teams often, they do this all the time, they hire retread coaches that failed before? Like to me, it doesn't make sense. Go with a new up-and-coming mind, like a modern type of coach or whatever, someone that's up-and-coming, like Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy, we've been talking about the last 2 years about getting a job.
Yep.
He's not a retread, hasn't even had an opportunity to be one.
Well, even look at what happened after the season or so. Byron Leftwich, who we thought was up and coming, he ends up getting fired as offensive coordinator here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Right.
Maybe that should have been the thinking. Then you just held on to him, and maybe Todd Bowles go. You know what I mean?
I
Because
think
Todd
that
Bowles
would
was
have been
already
smarter.
in house.
Yes, you're right.
When Bruce Arians was there.
Right.
So he basically just took over. Like I said, here's the keys to Ferrari, son. Don't fuck it up. And
But then
he's got a couple parking tickets. He didn't crash it, but he's got a couple parking tickets.
But that would have made more sense, though. Like, if you hired within Byron Leftwich, everybody was talking about him possibly being a head coach. Why not give him a shot there and then for the interim part? And then if he does well, now you sign him, and you can still keep Todd Bowles as your D coordinator.
Yeah.
Like, that would have worked out better, I feel like. But, we're not GMs.
Yeah, so life goes on, right, Joe?
Anyway.
Here we go. So Mike Tomlin, again, surprisingly enough, though, with this team, I always feel like I brought it up last year, this year even, too, that I thought they were going to finish worse in their division because, the way the team has kind of looked, I didn't see it really trajectory going forward. But they have found ways to win, though, Joe, and despite having the discrepancies, at offense, the fact that they go and fire Matt Canada here because it's kind of been stale. But maybe now people are looking in the fact that Kenny Pickett just isn't your guy, though. But you even saw what it looked like when he wasn't even in, and it was even worse, though, with Mitchell Trubisky. So it's tough. This team is at a spot to where it's in that limbo, to where they can make that push, but how far are they truly going to go? And it sucks because it's kind of a waste of that defense that they have here. So Mike Tomlin's always been that, locker room guy or whatever like that. But if it's not working, you know, especially because we're even here. And when you start hearing stuff out of locker rooms and people talking and this and this, like, then you know something's going on, that there is some kind of turmoil in the locker room. And it seems like some of that's been when the John's been coming on and out of this locker room here. He's been able to keep it under lockdown, like when Antonio Brown was there and a bunch of other
That was
stuff.
amazing.
But
that was amazing.
now it just seems like now he was the players coach, but he's getting older too. So maybe they're just looking at old man Tomlin like, yeah, whatever, man. We're just not feeling it anymore. So maybe there needs to be a change in this whole thing.
I mean, the Steelers, I feel like they pride themselves on not changing coaches too much. Like they always kind of string it out with whoever is at the helm as a HC for them, almost to a fault, because they pride themselves so much on having like very
The
few
longevity
coaches,
of coaching.
very few coaches have coached that organization, but they've been there forever. So Mike Tomlin, I'll say this. Mike Tomlin, personally, he's a great motivator. He's a player's coach. All the players love the guy to death. And he's a good decision maker. And that's what you want in your head coach. You want players to respond to the leadership that he gives. You want players to play hard for their coach, and you want your coach to make great decisions on game day. He fills that role extremely well. And that's why he's been successful up to this point. But you can only do that for so long, and then when talent starts to become a question is kind of where it kind of derails a little bit. And that's what we're seeing this year is Kenny Pickett was a flash in the pan his rookie year, come in and kind of added a spark and looked the part, looked like he was going to be the answer. And now we're noticing him this year kind of declining. And people want to point the finger at, Matt Canada and say, it's his fault. The offense is failing Kenny Pickett. The offense is the same as last year. Mm-hmm. Like the play calling is the same as last year. Just a different result now. So I think that Kenny Pickett has, I will say, like, he hasn't developed and gotten better as a pro quarterback this season. It seems like he's almost tunnel visioned in a sense that he's found his favorite receiver. Deontay Johnson is one of them, where he almost damn near forces it to him. Where George Pickens kind of is an afterthought in this offense, and it's like, wait a second, we got George Pickens. Like, why aren't we throwing to him too? Why aren't we spreading the ball around more? And that right there is, I feel like, what the offensive issue is. Is it not so much the offensive coordinator, the play calling? It's more of the quarterback executing the play. So Kenny Pickett, sorry, I wasn't high on this kid when he came out. Everybody kind of crowned him.
Know that.
Everybody kind of crowned him coming out saying he's the best quarterback. Now, maybe that's the case, but it wasn't a very good year for quarterbacks. But we're seeing he's limited, and maybe things change. Maybe next year he kind of comes back and with a vengeance and lights up the NFL. But until that day happens, things are looking grim in Pittsburgh. So I will say for Tomlin, I don't think he's going to get fired. I really don't. I think that he's done his job up to this point, despite the organization kind of slightly declining in terms of record and all that. I think that he's going to keep it at least another year, because he has the benefit of the doubt from the front office, I feel like.
Yeah.
And maybe by adding a little bit more talent by next season, maybe they can turn things around a little bit.
Yeah, and it's tough, and it's like one of those the conversations there, just because if you look back at even like we'll look at Marvin, was it Marvin Jones? No, Marvin. I can't remember him right now, but the head coach for the Cincinnati Bengals, Marvin Lewis, right?
Oh,
Marvin
when
Lewis.
he was
the head coach for the Bengals, it just seemed like they were happy with making the playoffs every year, but just like being the bridesmaid, never the bride. Since they won,
he wasn't even a good head coach either.
Well, but that's what I mean. He was there for so long, such a long tenure, and they were good, but they just never got there.
Right.
And we've seen coaches in other franchises
right.
too.
Yeah.
I mean, especially baseball, the turnaround with that. If a manager doesn't get right to the World Series again,
you're done.
You're done already. Even if you might be winning. Again, since they won the Super Bowl, they lost in the wild card. and then they were second and third, never made the playoffs, lost in a wild card, lost division, lost conference, lost division, never made the playoffs, didn't make the playoffs, lost wild card, didn't make the playoffs, didn't make the playoffs.
It doesn't sound like a good track record.
So you've gotten kind of to the show or some of the playoffs, but then you're instantly whacked out. So you've kind of been there, but just not what you're hoping to get out of it.
And that reminds me, remember Marty Schottenheimer?
Mm-hmm.
One of the most successful coaches in the league and in history, would always get his team in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Now, whether they are in there till the second round or the first round or whatever, but he was always in the playoffs. Couldn't ever get to the Super Bowl, couldn't ever win the Super Bowl, but he was always there. So, like, when you were reading that off and it's like, well, they've made it to the playoffs, and it's like, it reminds me, Marty Schottenheimer was one of the greatest head coaches in the game, but could never win the big game, never get there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But he was very successful. So if we're going off of that guy still got fired. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Even though he had tremendous success with teams, he still got fired because he didn't win the game, didn't win the game that counts. So the same thing, it lines up with that way too. Yep. Like, you got to show, listen, you have to show production. You have to show that you can win. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you know, like you brought up Marvin Lewis, they won enough, but not what counted. You didn't win rings. You didn't win a Super Bowl trophy. So maybe that's the thing. You know, maybe it's got to go back to that. Maybe the brass from upstairs is going to be like, hey, when's the last time that we were in the playoffs?
Yeah. We
you know,
haven't been there.
How long has it been?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like for Pittsburgh, like we've always known Pittsburgh as being that competitive team, that gritty team that always kind of found a way to get into the postseason. No, you know, they haven't been there in a while.
Yep. All right, next up, and finally here we have Matt Eberflus here for the head coach for the Chicago Bears. And
who's that guy?
He's definitely out there as a hot seat guy. It is exactly his fault, you know, because, you know, he started off last year with, you know, trying out Justin Fields for the first time, and then Justin Fields was injured for a lot this season. So you had to put in, Tyson there, but you even won a few games, though. But overall, with his record, he's only 7-22 as a head coach right now. Yeah. And offensively, you know, they haven't really done a lot, you know, putting up points. But then the defense, again, struggle not being able to get that pass pressure. And then, you know, the fact that they're trading away players, too. Mm-hmm. So it looks like they're making a change. And we've heard even rumors now that they're actively shopping his replacement right now even. You know, that's the rumors going around the NFL. So maybe it is. He just doesn't have the grasp with these guys and with these players, and they're looking to go in a different direction here. Maybe, again, to get away from that defensive type of guy and find the next offensive guy that's going to groom their quarterback. Because it seems like out of these teams that we've talked about, these coaches being on a hot seat, one remaining factor is defensive-minded coach and not grooming the right quarterback, and they haven't found their quarterback yet. And that's a constant thing.
And that's a whole other debate when we get to the draft for Chicago. But Eberflus is the main topic right now. I'll say this. Kind of disappointed in him as a head coach. I know, you know, he came from the Colts, and everybody kind of, you know, praised him about his defense there. And that kind of was the drawing interest for him. Came to Chicago, had actually inherited quite a bit of pieces to even improve that defense and make it even better. And it's only declined. I mean, talent-wise and production-wise, that team is not the same at all. They traded Roquan. They got rid of Roquan Smith. Mm-hmm. He goes to the Ravens. You know, they've moved on from a couple other pieces like veteran pass rushers. And it kind of like, I don't understand what the direction is for Chicago, especially on defense. Like you're tearing it down, and then you're going to just start all the way back up. By that time, you're not going to have a job. So, and then you look at Chicago's offense. I have to give props to the GM. Did a phenomenal job of working the system, working the draft last year in terms of trades, getting extra picks, and nailing the picks. Like, they had a really good draft, and to also get DJ Moore in that big trade when they traded down. So that's going to only help Fields, right? You think Fields is going to come back? He's going to be healthy. They got a healthier and improved offensive line. They add DJ Moore. Is it enough? We're not seeing it. The offense isn't as strong as we initially thought for Chicago this year, and it's not looking good for Eberflus, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like the guy's in there as a defensive guy. He's the head coach, but he's had questionable decision-making all season long. Going for it certain times, and then also sometimes kind of punting when it wasn't that far to go. Maybe you could have given your kicker a shot at making the field goal, but little question marks like that throughout the season. I feel like Bears fans are frustrated with his decision-making and the defense and how subpar that's been now by getting rid of talent, and his defensive scheme isn't working. So, I mean, I know it's quick. I know it's kind of like a quick turnaround to maybe even have this discussion, but I don't have a lot of confidence in him. I really don't as the head coach. I think they should look in a different, avenue. And I've heard of recent rumors that Chicago is very, very interested in Jim Harbaugh from Michigan, and maybe enticing him to leave college to come be the head coach of Chicago. And I think it would be a great fit if that was to happen, because what Chicago been known for, running the ball, being gritty in the Windy City, you know what I mean? And just kind of being physical on defense. And that kind of fits Harbaugh's whole thinking. So
right, and that kind of seems like it makes sense too. If you look at what he did with Colin Kaepernick, we'll say, even back then, he put Colin Kaepernick on the map right here. But if you put Justin Fields with similar type of things, would be actively running and things like that, you figure he could groom that guy and make it work.
It definitely could work. So I mean, for me, I would say bottom line, Eberflus, even though it's very quick and very soon, I just don't see a good trajectory for him as a head coach. I think it's time to pull the plug now and just kind of start over, especially with all these, I would think, upgrades in terms of candidates. Like you have Eric Bieniemy out there. That could be another option for Chicago. Jim Harbaugh, like we mentioned. And then there's others. You know what I mean? Detroit Lions offensive coordinator is also going to be brought up as another potential head coach this year. So we'll wait and see what Chicago decides to do, but I think the decision is to move on.
All right, so there you go. There's our coaches that got to go. The in-the-know coaches that got to go.
That's right.
Tell us what you think in the comments. Absolutely. We definitely appreciate you guys joining us and commenting along with it and playing along.
So, real quick, the most recent playoff game they made was a wild card in 2021. So it's really not that far back. It's relatively soon. The last one before that is 2020. Then 2017, 2016, 2015, then 2014. So, still kind of, he's got that in his back pocket where they're usually in between like 2 years of playing, they're back in the playoffs. So he's got that little niche to kind of show the front office that stick with me because we're going to be back there.
Yeah, well, there's been some turnaround of players, especially on the defensive side there.
100%.
When they were making that push, that's when they
every team is going through
with,
those changes.
With Vegas, and the Raiders and getting Khalil Mack then and thought they were making some moves there with Mitchell Trubisky and stuff like
I'm talking about the Steelers.
I thought you were talking about the Bears.
Tomlin.
But
2021.
Tomlin, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So it's like he's been pretty successful his whole time there. So it's like it's kind of a hard pill to swallow for the Steeler fans, I know right now. But I think Tomlin's still going to be staying there because they know like maybe potentially next year they can make a push. So we'll see.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so if you guys haven't yet, we drink it all the time. Raise Energy. Don't forget, go there, repsports.com, promo code Raise 'em up at the checkout counter. Get some more. I need to refill mine. I'm getting low, so I love it. I run on Raise, and it helps, dude. It's a sugar-free and a lot of pure stuff in there. Absolutely, man. No crash, so love it. Get your guys some and save some money on the top of it.
It's got some good stuff in the can, and that could be in you.
No dyes. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so here we go. Here's the picks competition, Joe. It's tight still. You're gaining every week on me, so it's
Not
real
really.
nice. So
Not really.
It's like, hey, chipping away, man. That's what you do. You know what I'm saying? Never give up. Never give up, So, all right, so let's get right into it. We're at week 14 now, Joe. Holy
Very
crap.
quickly.
Here we go.
Only 3 more weeks after
And they're going to
this
give us another wonderful Thursday night game. Here we go. This is going to be awesome. And more Tony Gonzalez.
So
Saying a bunch
fantastic.
of rambling things. Like I said, I don't know who's worse, Terry Bradshaw or Tony Gonzalez, dude.
I'll say Tony Gonzalez. I can't
He's gotta
stand him.
be.
I can't stand him. He's just
He just rambles.
he says the same crap that like someone else on the panel says.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's just like repeats it. It's like, dude, you just agreed with, Ryan Fitzpatrick of what he said, and you're just basically saying the same thing, just with different words.
Well, he's like, oh, yeah, and I love that guy. He's got 250 yards, this and this, and he's like, running around, so... They're like, yeah, that's the wrong guy we're talking about. He's like, well, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, wait, hold on. And then there's this guy. He's on the roster. I think his number is 20. Yeah, his number is 20. I like him. He's up and coming player, I think.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
And then all the players giving everybody high fives, and he's just kind of like there, hey, and they're like, yeah, all right, you too, I guess.
Yeah, Tony,
All
whatever.
right. Hey, anyways, so New England, Pittsburgh. This is
Fantastic
tough
game.
now just because
Neither
the
team
fact
wants
that-
to win.
Yeah, and you don't have Kenny Pickett now. Kenny Pickett's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks. He got the tightrope surgery.
So,
You ever hear of that
it's an
tightrope surgery?
even
Joe?
quarterback
That's pretty
duel.
wild. Yeah,
Pretty even.
It's going to be tough. Who's going to do the most
Which
turnovers?
defense
You know what
could
I mean?
score
Yeah.
first?
That's what it is. So for me, it's going to be tough here.
Very tough.
New England, though, they just don't look like they just don't have enough weapons here compared to what Pittsburgh has. But Mitch Trubisky, I just don't know. It's going to be tough. So it's going to be the defensive side. I'm going to lean towards Pittsburgh, I think, just because they are at home.
Just because they're home.
But New England, I wouldn't be surprised if they can finally somehow edge this one out. And this is the opportunity to do it, though.
So the funny thing is I don't know how you feel about this, but I've talked to like some fans that are fans
Steelers fans,
of
or?
losing teams, and I've asked it to them, and I was just like, well, what do you prefer? Like, do you prefer your team to keep fighting and to try to win regardless of, even though you're not going to make the playoffs,
Tanking?
or do you just want them to give up basically and just make it look good but lose the game on purpose? So a lot of Patriots fans and what they've said is like, yeah, we're definitely out of it, so we might as well just lose the rest of them. I don't know. I have a hard time when I start watching the game like of my team, and I'm just like, man, come on. I find myself getting caught up in the game. Like, no, come on, we got to do this. We got to try to win the game, even though I know my Raiders are done. I'm just like, nah, I want to get that win over this team, So it's more like a pride thing. But I guess some fans are just like,
Oh, no.
whatever,
We suck again.
So
It's Patriots.
how do you feel?
Me,
About that?
You know how I feel. I pick against my team every week. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
It's
are you
just
hoping to
expecting
lose?
that
Are you
they're
either?
gonna lose.
Let me ask you this: like,
You know, it's funny
Do
though.
you
I just
stop-
noticed this looking at you. You're kind of like you're a thinner version of maybe Brian Dable too. You know what I mean? I don't know. You're
thinner
just
version
maybe
of
with
Dable?
the
I don't
blue.
even have a beard.
You got kind of a beard. I don't know. I just
don't
saw it.
have
Maybe
a-
it was the blue shirt. I don't know.
Oh my god!
I don't know if that was a
I do not wanna
compliment
be
or if that
associated
was
with him
a
at all.
Yeah. Sorry.
No.
I'll wipe
Stick
that
with
from
the
my
Robert
memory.
Saleh. Stick with Robert
All
Saleh.
right. Anyways,
Anyway,
what were you saying? Yeah. I mean, because
but no, like my thing is like I've talked to Patriot fans and they want to
Yes,
lose. They just
yes.
want to lose. They want to try to get the top pick. All that.
Well, as a
are
Giants
you,
fan,
are you for or against wishing your team to just lose the rest of the games?
yes, I'm wishing that they lose. Yes.
So you don't want to win at all.
No. I want to be able to learn something about this team going forward, that if we could find any good and then keep that or
But that's
whatever
the
we can
thing.
do to learn from it.
Is if
But-
you're intentionally losing, you're never going to
Well,
see the
I don't see
the
players
potential.
ever intentionally losing, though. And that's why I say I'll
They'll
never
never
say
do that.
anybody potentially. Yeah, I would
They'll
never
never
say
do
go
that.
ahead and try and intentionally lose.
Yeah, they'll never do that. But you
if
know what
they
I'm saying?
lose, though, I'm not, a diehard against it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. That helps us out. I find the best in every situation.
No, but do you root for them to win at least? Like, or you just say, come on, I hope you're rooting for the other team all the time.
No, I don't think I root for the other team.
Okay.
You're right. I
That's
don't
what I'm
root for
saying.
the other team.
Like, because
Yeah.
there's fans that literally root for the opposing team to beat up their team,
Yeah.
just to lose to
Well,
get
that's
higher.
why it's funny. Even in the last game, I said to our friend, I would go Pats, because I just thought our team is so inept that the
Right.
Pats had a chance here to win now.
No.
And in fact, they still didn't. So we found another team that was actually worse than my team. That was amazing.
For that day.
Yes, for that day, and a Bill Belichick team again, at that matter. But yeah, with a team where we have Tommy DeVito as our starter. You know what I mean?
Hey, Tommy DeVito, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey.
Scusi, babidi boopy, che cosa? Babidi boopy, babidi boopy, babidi babidi.
There you go, Tommy. That's for you, buddy.
But yeah, so I mean, I never do that.
Okay.
But
All right.
now we'll get New England and Pittsburgh down, Joe. I mean, we discussed that whole thing.
Yes, now that we can get back on
that New England Patriots fans are wanting them to lose. Do you think they will lose?
I'm going to help them out and pick Pittsburgh.
Pick Pittsburgh on
That's
it.
right.
Okay, you're
because
going
they're
with Pittsburgh
home.
too.
Because I like their I like the Patriots defense.
Trubisky really didn't play horrible.
But
last time,
I feel like Trubisky is obviously he's more experienced. Maybe he won't make the same mistakes against the Patriots. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
But I feel like because of the experience, maybe he gives them a slight, and I mean a very slight edge.
Yeah.
Where I think for the Steelers going into this game, they know what Mitch is. They know they're not going to put a ton of pressure on him. They're going to try to run the ball first and foremost. And I feel like that's what the Patriots game plan is much the same, is they're trying not to put pressure on their quarterbacks. They're going to try to establish the run and then quick, high percentage throws if they have to and try to move the ball that way.
Yeah, definitely try to run the ball first. Next up, we've got here on Saturday or Sunday, Tampa Bay and Atlanta.
It's the shit bowl.
It's another shitty one here too, man. This is terrible. I mean, I think the scoring in this one's going to be horrible.
It's the battle of the
I keep
Southeast.
picking against Atlanta just because I really hate them. I don't believe in them at all, and they seem to bite me in the ass every time I bet against them.
Dude, I
and then I'll
picked them
bet for
last week.
and they won for you.
I'll tell you the reason why I picked Atlanta. Because Tim Boyle.
Yeah.
I just thought he was such an atrocious quarterback
Yeah.
from the previous week. I was like, there's no freaking way this guy's going to score points.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I picked him.
Yep.
But this game, you never know. Both teams, they're both still fighting for that division. It's the division nobody wants. There's no clear-cut winner in this. I don't know, man. Who do what I'm going to do is I picked Atlanta last week because of a shitty quarterback. Baker Mayfield is not that shitty.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the team overall as a
weapons,
Buccaneer,
right?
so
Right?
I'm going to go with Tampa.
I'm going to go with
Going
Tampa
into Atlanta.
as well, just because I've been diehard against these guys. In Atlanta, they really should
Because
have never
just
won that.
because I hate them.
Dude, yes, it was all because of the quarterbacks. And I went with the Jets just because I thought the Jets defense had enough to win it by themselves.
but their offense
and they
is
almost
terrible.
did.
Their
If it
offense
wasn't
is
just
terrible.
for Tim Boyle making god-awful throws.
I'm telling
that
you.
interception to Jesse Bates, they acted like Jesse Bates pulled off a tremendous
I
play.
want
And
all the
it was
Jet
a terrible
fans.
throw.
I want all the Jet fans that were so excited about Tim Boyle starting over Zach Wilson because you guys thought he was so much worse. I want them to step up. Everybody's quiet now about Zach Wilson coming back. Nobody's fighting too much against it.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh wow, that was terrible.
And it says it all in Tim Boyle's reaction to that interception. Did you see that?
Yeah,
He throws it and he sees it and he's like,
it's just like, oh well, darn it.
here we go.
That
Back to
happened.
silence. Put my hands in my pocket.
Whatever.
Or my hands at least.
Like he just didn't care.
Didn't
like
care.
nothing.
Seemed
It was
like,
like
just like,
no.
oh no, I did it again.
Yeah, like no
he's
fire.
not trying to make the team.
Oh,
Like,
so bad.
You're an idiot.
This isn't a scrimmage, by the way, Tim.
Yeah, it was tough to watch. All right, anyway, next so we got the Detroit Lions, and Lions, dude, again, they're one of those teams. You want to talk about contenders and pretenders and stuff like that. These guys are borderline for me, man. They got an identity crisis, man. They're
We
making
have
me
an identity
freak
crisis?
out because again,
Please
they beat
help
a
us.
team that they should have beat, but it eventually got a lot closer than it should have. You know, there with the Saints and everything. So Detroit, they really got to be able to take it to some of these teams. This is going to be a rivalry game, and I bet this one, for some reason, is going to be closer than expected. But Detroit,
It will
I'm
be
going to give
close,
them
yeah.
the top, the hand, the hand for it. I think they can do it.
So
They should do it by multiple scores, though.
I will say I agree with you in terms of the score being very close because it's a division rivalry. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
usually these games
They play
are
down to
very
their
close.
competition. It seems
Yeah, they
like.
definitely do. Detroit definitely 100% does. But they are a team that should win. Like these are the games that you should win. It shouldn't be a question of if. You should. This is a team that's 4-8 right now in the Bears. This is a team that's not well There's no good head coach there. Eberflus is terrible.
Yeah.
So, and Detroit, what do they have? They have a better coaching staff. They have better players right now. They are a team that is supposed to go into the playoffs and who knows, maybe pull off an upset or two. But for the Lions, I'm picking Detroit. I can't see, and I will say this too. Both teams are coming in very healthy. Both teams, there's not really hardly anybody injured on either roster right now. And one quick note is Hendon Hooker. Remember Hendon Hooker got drafted this year? He actually fully participated in practice on Wednesday. Interesting on the looking towards the future for Detroit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious to see how well he could play.
Yeah.
Because he's the one quarterback that we haven't been able to see at all because of his injury.
Yeah.
So I know it's not going to happen this year, but I don't know. Come off season, there could be a competition going on between Goff and Hooker.
Yep.
The Goff Hooker.
Yep, absolutely. Especially with Goff, he's got that cloud over him that the media just doesn't like him.
Oh,
they'll
hate
praise
him
him when they can.
hate
You know,
him.
like, yeah, well, how about you guys? You guys are surprised, what you guys been able to do? And he's like, yeah, we've been doing good. And then all of a sudden they just do terrible. Like, yeah, he's just terrible.
I think Goff needs to
is
change his name on his jersey that he hate me.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. All right. Indianapolis Colts and the Cincinnati Bengals. We talked about this earlier.
We did.
Jacob Browning. Yeah. What a surprise. He's been playing
Awesome.
really good. And the fact that with him, too, is
Good
his
for them.
poise, I think. What is really, it's noticeable that jumps off the page, really. It doesn't look like a young quarterback trying that, like the game's too big for him.
Right.
Seems like he's just fitting in.
Yes.
And making plays, too, with his feet and all around. And made some pretty good throws here, too. Jamar Chase and things like that in that game. It was a tight game.
Yeah.
But Indianapolis, hey, they surprised me last week and pulled out that victory. That was a tight one,
Oh.
though. But
I am so disappointed.
oh my God! But that shows you how important, with Tennessee, that Derrick Henry is and things like that. That you
Yeah.
allowed Indianapolis to come back in here and
They
that
had it.
defense.
They had it.
They had it, yeah, and giving up big plays. Really,
They let him off the hook.
big plays. You had them and you could have locked them in, and then
Yeah.
they giving up the big chunk play that got it, and that's all she wrote, especially in overtime.
I know, unfortunately, right? This game, man, I picked against the Colts last week. I really thought they were going to lose that game. And then this week against Cincinnati, yes, Cincinnati Bengals are going to get another test against the Colts. Browning is going to get another test, but man, did I love what I saw from Browning last week against the Jags. And a good defense, too. They made some plays. They got some turnovers, that Jaguars team, but hey, he got more and more comfortable throughout the game, was wheeling and dealing on plays and just making things happen, making some nice throws, good reads. And I liked what I saw from him last week. I think if he can compete against the Jaguars like that, he'll be able to compete against the Colts for sure. I'm going to go with Cincinnati at home getting the win.
All right, and this one
I believe in Browning.
Yeah. I want to say, wasn't Indianapolis the one that blocked 2 punts in that game? And that's where they were able to pull up points. I can't remember that. I want to say it was that
No,
game.
yeah. It was
Because they
that
really weren't really doing a whole lot of
Right,
offense, and
right.
it was just that's what I mean.
Until the very end.
Tennessee were able to get them in there once they had a life. So
Right.
they're not still on my radar here. That it's nice the whole story with Gardner Minshew and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I think I'm going to side with Cincinnati even too because Jake Browning looks pretty nice for him to keep him alive in this playoff hunt. It's pretty
That's
crazy.
right. Doing his job.
Just when you think they're dead, right? Jacksonville and Cleveland. Oh man, if Trevor Lawrence was able to play in this game and he never got injured last week, I'd say this
Oh,
was
I
going to be a
know.
tight, good game to watch.
I know.
But watching that injury and down and the fact that he's out, that you saw the difference with the team when he
So-
wasn't with it.
Just a quick update on that. It's not serious. It's just a high
Right?
ankle
High
sprain.
ankle sprain.
But he acted like it was like his ankle's broken or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like he couldn't even put any weight on it. And I understand there's a lot of pain there, but it's not as serious as it looked.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it was slamming his,
so he'll
his
be
helmet down.
he
with his
will
head
be
down.
back.
Yep.
He will be back. It's going to take a few weeks, and hopefully he can get back before potentially playoffs roll around because they're 8-4 right now.
Yep.
If they can win a couple more games, I'd say like if they go 10-7,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they'll still make the playoffs, but they need a couple more wins. So maybe they can do that, but I don't think it's going to happen this week because the Cleveland defense.
Right.
The Cleveland defense is very, very tough. I'm going to go with Cleveland at home, even though I'm not thrilled about their quarterback situation either.
Right, but I think even running backs, their weapons here, defense. Jacksonville, they've got some weapons, but
They
again,
got a lot of weapons.
C.J. Beathard, just again, hasn't really been a starter in a long time. Looked okay in that game.
But he's
when
going to
he
look
came
better
in,
this week,
but-
I feel like, because he's going to get first team reps this week. He's going to, be able to have some time with the first teamer. So you never know.
But it's going to be tough for them, so I'm going Cleveland here at home. Carolina and New Orleans, again, two stinkers here. A game that New Orleans should win, really. I mean, I hate talking about.
Can we go?
about the
Can we
Saints
go?
at
Can
this
we
one
go
here.
back to this game? This is a rematch.
Yeah.
Remember the primetime game between the Panthers and the Saints, and I thought it anyway. Like, I thought the Saints were going to wash the Panthers out in that game.
Yeah.
And not only were the Panthers in it, but they ended up beating them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, now you get a rematch. You're at home now in New Orleans. This could be maybe they pull it off. Like, I'm not 100% on board with Bryce Young. I'm not 100% on board with this Panthers team. I feel like Bryce Young just makes week to week. He makes way too many mistakes that kind of hold back this offense. And I feel like it's going to continue. Like, I understand the Panthers beat them in the first contest, but I think it might be different this week. Every game is different. So I'm going to go with the Saints at home.
I'm going with the Saints as well, but let me tell you this. Like you said, if the Panthers win, I think that's when you're going to be hearing the talks of Dennis Allen then. Because if you lose twice to this divisional rival here,
The
in this
worst team
the
in your
worst team,
division.
yeah, and
And in the
potentially
league.
in the NFL.
And in the league, yeah.
That says a lot
But
here.
I
Where
mean-
you were supposed
Right.
to be at this point
Right.
in this season.
You can't beat a team that's rebuilding.
Yes. Yes.
That's it.
Absolutely. And like I said, there's turmoil within the
I mean,
ranks of the team right
we
now.
talk about Dennis Allen. There's even fans calling for Derek Carr's head and move on from him. He's not our guy. Blah blah blah. And all these things is like, if Dennis Allen gets fired, I could see a potential for them moving on from Carr because he's tied to Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen wanted to bring him in to as a quarterback. So a lot could happen if Allen is the first chip to fall.
Yep. All right, here we go. Next, we've got the Houston Texans and the New York Jets. And this is what sucks even for Zach Wilson. I just got to say it's for Zach Wilson because, again, we've talked about, and I hear this too with the media that's up here too. And we talk about media a lot here because, they're all talking heads.
The mass
and they
media
all
sucks.
feel like everybody should feel the way they feel. And if you don't, then you're a moron.
That's right.
Or you're just a bandwagon fan, or you're a fan of the team, so you can't see reality. All right, they think that Zach Wilson moving to him is just the dumbest thing. That the fact that he was benched to third string, that because he's a statement that he's terrible. But then within the same breath, they say how bad the other quarterback's in, and that's the only reason why Zach Wilson is. But they can't believe
Contradict him.
the fact that Robert Saleh is saying he gives us the best chance to win. And if you don't agree with that, they feel like, dude, you're an idiot. And it's like, he was like, if you feel like the way the rest of the real world feels, and it's like, okay, if you take a look at it and you look the way Zach Wilson played compared to these other fucking morons that they had in there, they really did have a better chance to win. And the wins that they did have was when he was the starting quarterback this year. So that shows you, and he does have that running capability that gives you a different type of look. Yes, he does make mistakes, but I'd rather see him making the mistakes as he's trying to learn than these other washed-up has-beens that have shown already that they do not fit in an NFL system right now. That they're not good starting quarterbacks that aren't going to get you anywhere you need to get to. They're not going to get you to a playoff game so where Aaron Rodgers is going to magically jump in and play a playoff game for you. You need to learn for here and for now what you really have in Zach Wilson and move on. But right now, he does give you the best opportunity to win. But I feel, like I said, I feel bad for him, is you put him back in the game against the Houston Texans to where teams that's been red hot. You got the offense going for them, but then also that defense here. And C.J. Stroud and a great quarterback, rookie quarterback on this side that's just outshining, Zach Wilson. And I feel bad because I think this one, even though they're at home, I think the Jets are going to lose this one against Houston.
Yeah, and I feel like with the media,
It's like a setup.
with the media always being against Zach Wilson and making him look bad, making him sound bad, and it's the same with the Saints with Carr. It's like the media is always turning the fans against these quarterbacks. And last week, when Derek Carr got announced to come out in the game, there was boos throughout the crowd. this week, now that Zach Wilson is back in the lineup, I'm curious to see how the fans react when he gets announced to as their starting quarterback. So,
Well, by the judge of by looking at the way faces were last week,
Yeah.
the appalling play of the other two, I think they should be cheering at this point.
they should be, but we'll see. It's New York,
Yes.
you know. Don't let anything, go
I doubt
easy.
they'll be cheering or waiting, for an open arms for Brett Rippon to make it.
Oh, they might be. They might be.
Yep.
But
But anyways, you got Houston in this one. You got the Jets. Joe.
The Jets, very strong defense. With Zach Wilson, it does give them a better chance on offense, to try to win this game. They're at home, which is another plus. For Houston, though, they've been so red hot. And honestly, they've been my golden goose this season with a rookie quarterback in Stroud and how well he's been able to play. So I'm going to stick with Houston still against the Jets, going into New York and getting a win.
All right, here next we got the Rams and the Baltimore Ravens. Rams have been a nice story too, because again I wrote them off early on. I questioned why McVay would come back, but they've been able to win some games. They haven't lit us up or anything like that though too, and been like
They've been competitive though. They've been in
but
it.
they've won some games, and they've been able to find something in Karen Williams too on the running game and try and find a balance here. Now that Cooper Kupp's fully healthy and Matthew Stafford too,
Right.
they're able to put up points now offensively, because at first the offense wasn't looking good at all. That defense isn't what it used to be. So I think they're going to keep this game competitive early. But I think the Baltimore Ravens, even after getting that rest and stuff, they're going to come out swinging and they're going to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, in this game, you're going into Baltimore for your Rams team. You're traveling all the way from West Coast to East Coast. That usually doesn't bode well for West Coast teams. Though only one, silver lining is that they have a shot because they don't play each other normally, every year or anything like that. So neither team knows each other very well. That usually kind of makes games kind of close until teams figure each other out in the second half. But Baltimore's been they've just been like great on defense. Their offense is definitely improved from last year. Now at this point in the season, and they've been so hard to stop for other teams that I think that might be too much for the Rams to overcome. Traveling on top of facing a juggernaut like Baltimore right now, I'm going with the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, and so isn't it funny here with the Ravens, Joe, just how they're not talked about as maybe the best team in the AFC right now? Just because overall they look pretty good every single week that they play.
Yeah.
But it's always the Cinderella Chiefs or, whatever, and
Miami
they're not really-
Dolphins is
Miami
like the red hot
Dolphins.
offense.
Yeah.
The
And
Bills.
it's just that everybody's
Will the Bills come back?
overlooking Baltimore. And I think they're just that sneaky team right here.
I don't think like for the
They're
for
not
the
like a sleeper,
for the-
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
like-
but I'm just saying they get overlooked, and and the fact that like, hey, they're still pretty good, but
I'll
nobody's
tell
really
you who
talking
doesn't
about
overlook them: the Ravens fans.
It. Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
they know what's
exactly. Oh,
up.
they know what's up. Yeah, we know what's up too. All right, next we got the Vikings and the Vegas Raiders here. Oh, geez, this is tough, but let me
It's a
tell
really
you,
tough one.
that shine of the Josh Dobbs shine has worn off here for Minnesota, man. You know what I mean? He looked good, but I hear you there. But you got to look at his turnovers too. If you look at his turnover to touchdown ratio, it's not very good. So they were winning games with him. I get it, but not the best still. I mean, he's been filling the gap a little bit here. This
do,
could be
however,
a tough game.
They do, however, get Justin Jefferson back.
That
this
is
week.
big. That is big
That's
because
very
at one
big.
point this season it seemed like he was their only hope.
Yeah.
But
And I'll say this too: like the Raiders, who knows if Crosby's going to play? And even if he plays, he actually got an infection in his knee.
yeah,
Medical doctors for the Raiders suggested that he go get it taken care of, and kind of blew it off and said, whatever, it'll go away. But it didn't go away. He got an infection, bro.
yeah.
And then now he had to go get it drained in a hospital a week before last week's game and played. But when you watched him play, like, you knew something was wrong. He wasn't his typical self. Yes, he got a sack, but he looked very kind of, hesitant on what he was capable of doing. And I think that's going to lead into this week. I feel like Crosby is not going to be the same if he continues to play on it. I feel like he needs to shut it down. So that coupled with Colton Miller still on the injury, list. He didn't practice today. I don't know if it's just a rest day or whatnot, but I think there's going to be that right there, I think with Crosby not playing is gonna hinder the defense and what they're able to do because they count on him so much. I'm gonna go with Minnesota in this one, coming to Vegas and getting a win.
Yeah, I hear you there too. And Crosby always, likes to tip his cap about how he's been healthy and been able to start so many games, stuff like that. And that's the thing I think that he's fighting against. Wants to be that.
But mobile
Iron
quarterbacks
Man,
give the Raiders fits.
Yeah.
Like that. That's the thing. And then you couple that with the defense for the Vikings
Vikings.
and how well they've played.
Yeah.
So
Give a shout out to
I think it might be too
Danielle
much.
Hunter again, who is fighting that franchise tag and things like that, wanted a bigger deal and stuff like that. And he's showing. He's like, hey, listen, I was one of those sack
Guess
leaders,
what?
and I'm still there.
guess what?
Mm-hmm.
It's looking good. Open market is looking real good.
Yeah, absolutely. I need to hit the cash register on that one. But Minnesota, again, you bring in Justin Jefferson back here too. Vegas, again, they're struggling a little bit here. I'm going to go with the Vikings as well in this one. Seattle Seahawks, they lost a tough one in that one, but
They did. It was close.
man, that game, oh man, it's just so many. And some of the offensive plays and things that they did. In the end of that game, where they had opportunities to beat the Cowboys,
They did.
and just didn't get it done.
Squandered.
And,
Squandered.
yeah, and it seems like, I don't know, like with Geno Smith, it's one thing if you want to be. They always teach you if you're going to be that quarterback, live to fight another day. But there was those last two plays in that game, especially the third down right before that fourth down, where he gave up too early on the play, I think, and just just threw it down. And I was just kind of like, live to fight another day. Now it's 4th and long,
Yes.
you stupid asshole, and the day's over. You've lived to fight what day?
Yeah, what are you
this
doing?
is the day.
Yeah, what are you
and
doing?
now you just threw it away. And now you put that much more pressure on you. Then the offense decides to call a stupid just check down to the halfback. So you're going to let Parsons jump free shot at you? What are you, stupid?
Yep.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, and that just blew my mind again. Like, that's in third down, you're just like, boom, don't even give it a chance. Not even a chance. Not even a sniff. Not even look at it quick and then throw it away.
Who cares?
Nothing. Just bang.
You got to go for the whole thing here. You have to.
You're playing to win.
You throw it, and you just hope that your receiver comes down
Because
with
if
it.
you lose you throw the interception, it's over.
It's over
then
anyway. It doesn't matter.
It's over. You got nothing to lose.
Right.
And
Throw it
you
up.
didn't try. So that bothered me. I had to vent a little bit there. But this is going to be an exciting game just because, again, these rivalry games are always tight. Unfortunately, it's in San Francisco. San Francisco has found their stride again. Well, they got healthy Debo and everybody all together. The
everybody's
gang's
good.
all here playing well. But even at home, they play exceptionally well. Sucks for Seattle. I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah. And that's the real deal. Is that the Niners are hitting their stride right now, like you just said, and their team looks very, very deadly.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the acquisition of Chase Young opposite Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Along with the rest of the guys on the defense, it's incredible. They just seem to do every year. The Niners seem to do some kind of a move every year like that, and they just keep getting stronger. Building themselves up for the playoffs. Even though this is a division rivalry, I got to give it to the Niners. I have to. They are very difficult to play against and try to get a win. Seattle, with what they've been, with Geno Smith, I'll say showed last week. I don't think that's, you can't be confident in your offense going against one of the better defenses.
Yeah, that's true. With that interception even threw too last week, it was not very good. And the fact that they were able to get DK Metcalf open in the secondary like they did for that deep throw. You're not going to get that in San Francisco.
No, no.
All right, so Buffalo and Kansas City. This is the game that everybody's marking this week, at least up here in upstate New York. This is what we're talking about. Buffalo licking their chops because they're saying that, again, this is the Kansas City. Nobody's afraid of Kansas City anymore.
Why should you be?
And because they said they're looking at the offense, they're not putting up points like they were before. And then maybe the last 2 weeks, I don't know if Patrick Mahomes is nursing something and he's not open about, but he's been really inaccurate.
No, he's that way. We've seen it from time to time. Even when they had their explosive offense, there was games and times in those games where he would overthrow a player. But nobody would talk about it. Like, it wasn't a big deal. It was like, and Mahomes was just off the mark there. But then the media would be like, well, the Chiefs lost a close one, blah, blah, blah. But it wouldn't bring up the fact that fucking Mahomes screwed up a few times.
Shitty for 90% of the game.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like it seems like in this league, when you get established your name and how good you are, people tend to overlook a lot of things.
Mhm.
And it's like, listen, Aaron Rodgers wasn't the most perfect quarterback either. He's great, but he's overthrown people too. So for this team here, and we will have to say, last week against the Packers, the Chiefs did get robbed. Like,
Yes.
there was definitely a couple of pass interference calls that should have been called, and they weren't. And it pains me to say that as a Raiders fan, but yeah, like it was badly officiated for sure. But going into this game, expect more bad officiating.
Yes. That's one thing you can always count on.
You can always count on that. But Bills seem to be slowly getting back to the style of offense they had last year. That definitely helps them out in this matchup, to turn the Jets on, so to speak, and try to get back into the swing of things here. That definitely gives them a shot. But in Kansas City, it's a tough place to play. It's very the fans are going to go nuts, and I hate this. I hate picking this game. I'll say this. I'll say, like, Mahomes. This is the deal, is with the defense for a lot of teams that I've seen play Kansas City's offense, the key component is to stop Travis Kelce. Because whenever teams have double-teamed Kelce and kept him out of games, this offense as a whole has struggled, because now Mahomes is forced to go to some of these other receivers that tend to drop the ball once in a while and stall drives, and they end up punting a lot more. So I think if the Bills are able to do that, I think that would be really big if Matt Milano was there. Like, I feel like he could really help out this defense. But I think going into Kansas City, despite all that, I'm going to go with the Chiefs and how well their defense has played this year at home and getting another win.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough.
I really
here.
badly want to pick the Bills.
It'd be nice
but
if the Bills won, but
I don't know.
Again, this year just seems off again to me, and the fact that they think that just by getting rid of Dorsey, that just changed everything, which they did look okay offensively, but it was just Josh Allen being Josh Allen. And like I said to it a few weeks ago, you can't keep giving me the excuse. And some people have said it, to where it's a really big statement, to where like Lamar Jackson, he takes off running and doesn't throw. He's risky. He's this, da, da, da. You know what I mean? He's not a great quarterback. He's not developed. And Josh Allen does it, and he's a gunslinger, and he does this, and he's just da, da, da. I'm not going to that extreme, but I was just saying gunslinger is just another word for, risky. He makes way too many risky moves and chances that I don't like. I don't trust. I still don't trust this guy. So
I trust him with my team.
Not enough. I mean, still, because he said when he gets flustered, he doesn't handle, I think, the pressure really well, and he puts it on his shoulders too much, and then I think tries to do too much. So I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs on this one. We'll see. We'll see how Mahomes throws, though. I mean, he was terrible last time.
Yeah.
But I did notice in the game, you notice that seeing they weren't playing as well. There weren't any panning to Taylor Swift. Like, oh, there's no looking at her now, and blah, blah,
You
blah.
just
And there's no
mentioned her,
scoring.
bro. I thought
I
we
know,
were
but
past this.
isn't that hilarious, though? Because this is what they do. They want to say, "Hey, the Chiefs are rolling good."
They're
Let's
only
see
going to show
Taylor
her
get excited
every
and
time they
cheer.
score. They
She's
show
probably
her.
like during the game, like on her phone, just probably like.
We're
doing
getting to
something
that
else,
point. We're
right?
getting to the point where like she's just
texting
gonna
John Mayer. She's like, "Hey, you want to hook back up or what?" I mean, I'm tired of this.
She's going to
dude.
start going around to all the tight
He's
ends
a
in the league.
goofball. Yeah, probably. All right,
Michael
so-
Mayer, maybe Michael Mayer. He's young.
Yeah, there you
you
go.
know?
Absolutely. All right, Denver Broncos and the Chargers. Broncos, their winning streak's over here. It was a tight one though. They almost snuck that one out. Chargers,
Jesus,
they
this game.
looked really terrible
God,
though.
I can't-
Again, only putting up 6 points
God.
against a team like the Patriots. I mean, again, their defense has been playing fairly well, but again, that's a team. If you're our playoff caliber, should be able to beat them by 2 digits, into multiple scores. And the fact that your hand's healthy now, Justin Herbert, so no excuses now either for the way you play. So Denver, I mean, they're turning around a little bit here. This is a tough one, Joe, though, because I don't trust the Chargers.
I don't trust either one.
Yeah. This is tough. You want to flip a coin? We got a coin here somewhere. Jesus. I don't know. What do you think? You pick this one first.
Okay, no
What
problem.
do you got? You hate both because they're
I hate
rivals too,
both.
so you'd rather see them end up in a tie.
Can they both
Can you
get
pick a
beat
tie?
up and both lose? That'd be great. It's fine. The Chargers, like you mentioned, we talked about the head coach, how Staley's been he's been in jeopardy of possibly losing his job this offseason, and rightfully so. It's the decisions. It's going to come into this game too, just like every single week. Now you're going against Sean Payton, who's actually really good at making decisions, and the Denver Broncos seem to be getting some things right. They're not, explosive by any means, but they're getting the job done, and they get to rely on their defense, which have helped them all season long. So I think with the lack of the Chargers not being able to show everybody their overall talent on the roster, not playing to their level, I feel like Chargers do the same thing. They kind of just they hang around, but then they disappoint you, especially as a Chargers fan. And being in LA, you're going to expect to see a lot of Denver Bronco fans. I feel like it's going to be yet again one of those things where like the Broncos are going to have the majority of the fans there, and the Broncos, they've been hot right now. They're not taking the league by storm by any means, but they've been so competitive to the point where they've won games that I really didn't think they were capable of winning. So I'm going to go with Denver on this one.
Yeah, this one's a tough one for me, man. Denver, even they
Let's roll. Let's ride.
Let's ride. Let's ride.
Come
So
on,
there you
Russell.
go.
Let's ride.
Yeah.
Keep winning.
Yep. And looking at the injuries too, offensive line, they're injured a little bit here on the for the Chargers too. Doesn't bode well for Justin
Everybody's
Herbert,
pretty
though,
healthy on
either.
Denver.
Yeah, this is tough, but again, defensive.
For the Chargers, they're
30.
actually pretty healthy. They're not that bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like there was full practice for
Ooh,
people. But
Josh Palmer we might get a sighting for Josh Palmer this week. That's promising.
Man, this is a tough one for me. But you know what? I think I might go with the Broncos here because they got the
Why
higher
not?
hand. Why
Who
not?
cares?
Let's just go with it.
Doesn't matter.
All right, next we got the Philadelphia Eagles here and the Dallas Cowboys.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Sunday night, yeah, people
That's
are
a
excited
good
about
one.
this one. Dallas
NFL,
fans
good job.
are chopping at the bit here now that they've seen there's a chink in Philly's armor. They feel like, oh, these guys can get beat.
There's a chink
we can do that. I wasn't trying to be
in the
racist that
Eagles'
time.
armor.
Yes. But Dallas fans at home, I think they're going to be excited here. They think they can do enough to win. But I think offensively they can be steady. But CeeDee Lamb,
This could go either way.
He makes mistakes a lot of times, a lot of drop balls where he should already catch them.
This could go either way.
And defense has been opportunistic, I think, this so far. Philadelphia, I think, even though they're in Dallas, I think they're learn from this loss here against the 49ers. And I think overall they're still a better team. And I think they'll bounce back from this one. I like Philadelphia here.
Mike McCarthy actually has gone under the knife, set to undergo surgery for acute appendicitis. The team announced.
I don't remember appendicitis ever being cute.
It's acute.
but-
It's acute.
Oh, okay.
So it's sharp pain apparently.
Yes, it is.
McCarthy anticipates coaching Sunday. So the key word is anticipates. Does it mean he'll be there or not? If he's not,
Dan Quinn going to be?
yeah, I don't know, but he's the one that
There's
calls
never been a
everybody.
better time to get away.
So, I don't know. But for Dallas, like, listen, the Cowboys, this is one of those games where, like, it's like a knockout, drag-out type of fight between these two teams every time they meet. Dallas has got a pretty good defense. So doesn't the Eagles. But and the Cowboys' offense, surprisingly, has gotten much better throughout the season. Definitely gives them a shot being home as well to beat the Eagles. But, man, I can't not pick the Eagles. Like, I like that team overall. Both teams are pretty much healthy, and I believe in Jalen Hurts to come away with the win. Next up, Monday Night Football. We got a doubleheader, everybody. 8:15 for 2 games. Tennessee at Miami is the first one. Well, I say first one.
play
They're
at the
both
same
at the
time.
same time.
Yeah.
And then, which is amazing. Good job, NFL, for just making us choose what to watch. And then you have Green Bay at the Giants. So we'll just kind of announce
team
them.
get blown out, or you want to watch 2 tough teams that are terrible? Well, I mean, I guess Green Bay's okay better now. I mean, like, I don't know. I think the Giants could win that game. Green Bay. I feel like they could. I mean, Jordan Love has been playing nice.
Mike, what do you say?
Which is
You got J Love in your corner. What do you think? Everybody out there here, do us a huge favor. If you haven't done so already, help us grow this community of ours. Head over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell while you're there to let you guys know when we go live. And of course, you can always follow us on Facebook or anywhere you get your podcasts.
But I don't know. But Tennessee,
Start off with
and
Tennessee and Miami.
Well, I just like Miami in this one. Miami at home. Tennessee, Derrick Henry's banged up. They're still.
Right.
They're just not. They're done this season.
Yeah. So that's a pretty easy decision there. I'm going to go with the Dolphins as well. That Tennessee offense, it really runs. If Derrick Henry's there, it runs through him first, obviously. And the defense for Tennessee, I don't know. I think they're a little lost in the sauce. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins there with their high-profile offense and their defense, which is kind of like underrated, really. Next up, at Green Bay at the Giants. Green Bay, just like you said. I mean, you said that the Giants have you think the Giants have a shot in this one?
I think they do.
Okay.
If they can run the ball effectively with Saquon, I think they have a shot. Tommy DeVito has shown that he can do some stuff. He's got the team on his shoulders here, and they believe in him, and they like the story. And it's the fact that Tyrod Taylor's butt hurt now, too, now that he's healthy and they don't want to start him. But you got to look at it in this point of view. You got this young guy. You brought him in. He wasn't expected to be there on the team.
Right.
He's doing all right, and he's winning. See what you got out of him. We already know, again, what Tyrod Taylor is. He's been with multiple franchises. He's enough to get you done to win games. I think at this point in the season, even though mathematically
Watch
they're
him.
in the hunt, the Giants are in the hunt.
You got to see how he works.
I don't think they're trying to make a playoff push right now.
Hey,
They're
Tommy.
not doing that. Okay, we know this. So see what he's got and see where it takes you. Whatever you see, what you get. You know what I mean? So I think they have enough to win. I just don't think they will win. I'm gonna go with the Green Bay Packers on this one.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I'll say is Saquon, they're gonna have to get the ball going. Tommy DeVito, can he make some magic happen in New York? I don't know. With Green Bay, what they've been able to accomplish last week, if they can keep that same tenacity, still consider yourself the underdogs of every single week moving forward, and try to prove everybody wrong about your offense, everybody wrong about your team. I'm going to go with Green Bay as well, going against the Giants, because I'm going to take the same, opinions that you have, and
Yeah.
I'm going to pick always against the Giants.
Yes. There you go, and see how it goes. And if they win, hey, we're surprised.
Tommy!
That's
Scusi, babidi boopy, che cosa? Babidi boopy, babidi boopy, babidi babidi.
DeVito.
We'll see more of DeVito out there. All right, that's it for us this tonight, this week. It's been great talking with everybody again out there.
Yes, tune in next Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Find us right here. Go to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. You know what to do. Hit the like up. Like the video. Do all that. Comment down below. Listen, we still get the comments coming in even after our show's done. We'll answer them. If you guys want to talk about something next week, drop it down in the comments below as well. Anything, your team, a situation, whatever.
All right, thanks a lot, and we'll see you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday nights for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.